Meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we connecting remotely tonight with Mr. Peoples?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me get it up.
So we have a three-member board this evening. Mr. DeWitt is not able to join us.
Yep.
And Mr. Peoples is going to be connecting in remotely, so we're going to give it just a moment for that to occur. Just while we do that, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Not for me. Nope.
No? Anything off consent the board would like to speak with tonight?
No.
Okay. Give it just a second here to connect in the conference room. Looks like it's just you.
Yeah, it's just, well, it's just me for now.
Okay.
Just get
All
me
right.
off that job.
Well, let's go ahead and proceed. If Mr. Peoples connects in, we'll have to take action to allow him to participate remotely.
I'll text him and tell him it's up.
That's all right. So we have the summary of non-public actions from April 1st, 2026. Mr. Shoemaker moved to approve the March 18th public minutes. Mr. Plansky seconded that motion. That motion passed 5-0. Mr. Shoemaker moved to approve Marion Abdi's resignation as CHS Social Studies teacher. Mr. Plansky seconded that motion. That motion passed 5-0. Mr. Shoemaker moved to approve Michelle Stover's resignation as an LMS science teacher. Mr. Carter seconded that motion. That motion passed 5-0. Mr. Shoemaker moved to adjourn the non-public session at 8:30. Mr. Plansky seconded that motion. That motion passed 5-0. With that, we're rolling right along here. Tonight we have presentations and recognitions, and we have Principal Grantham with us representing LMS and the Student Council.
I am representing the Student Council tonight because, as with many student councils, they are multi-involved in a lot of different things in a lot of different places. So despite a request, it was a busy evening to fill this evening, but our Student Council has been actively involved throughout the school year in helping to make our school a better place. We really feel like it's nice to have the student voice as they're talking about the things that we have going on. They're in the process right now of actively planning for tomorrow night, which is our 4th grade information night, where we're welcoming all of our friends from GMS that are coming up to become Links next year. And our student council, C3PO student council students, will be hosting the tours tomorrow. So instead of hearing from grown-ups, kids are going to be hearing from kids tomorrow, and they're the kids that are part of C3PO Student Council. For those of you that don't know what C3PO is, it's creating a culture and climate for positive outcomes. It's something that we started, I think when Zoe was there, C3PO existed back then. And it has kind of grown and morphed throughout the years as we've gone on here. They are also working on...
Do you want to mute the TV there?
There we go.
They're also working on actively prepping for our cornhole tournament, which is next week. So our student council is helping to support. We work with the Litchfield Veterans Association. This is the 5th year running for our cornhole tournament that helps to place wreaths on veterans' graves at both Pinecrest and Hillcrest. It's expanded over the time we started because it's become very popular. Kids like to participate. Miss Corbeil is amazing with getting all of the little trinkets and prizes and baking brownies to feed kids if they get their teams together. And it's really about connecting our kids with their community. So that's a great activity that has been ongoing. They're planning for Spirit Week next week. And they're planning a change to the schedule because everything isn't always exactly as it's been in the past. And we've always done Spirit Week the week before April vacation with a Friday pep rally to end it the last day before vacation, which is great. And there's a tradition that has gone on for 4 of the 5 years I've been there where 8th graders have done a dance to kick off their last thing. We're going to move that pep rally to after vacation, and it's instead of becoming a pep rally to kick off vacation, it's going to be a pep rally to kick off our New Hampshire SAS testing. So we're going to be making it a little bit more exciting.
So much fun.
A little bit more exciting and really talking to the kids about how important it is to get involved. So our student council is in the process of planning that. We as a staff and a team We're going to be providing breakfast to our kids for all of the days before they start. So it's going to be free breakfast for anybody that comes in, free to them, not free to us. But we're using Lauren Crowley and catering to help us to give them a nice, healthy breakfast to feed their brains before they're testing their brains for almost the entire month of May. There's a lot of testing that's going on over the course of the month, but we're going to do that. We've also looked at incorporating, I know last time we were talking about incentives, talking about those incentives for kids. If they are improving their SAS scores from last year to this year, which is always the goal, they're going to get to silly string, Mr. Peterson and I, in the front parking lot. Last year it was water balloons, this year it's silly string. I know it was very motivating last year, and we're hoping that that is a motivator for kids to want to see us make fools of ourselves in the front yard. But if we can see some value to why it's important to take the test and why it's important to do our best, I think as we've gone through the course of this year, they've done the New Hampshire SAS modular assessments, at least 2 a quarter, one in math and one in language arts, as well as some science. They don't have the modulars for science, but they have a different version of the test for science, and they have been taking that as well. So we're really hoping that we can see that proof in the pudding, and that the kids are putting their energy and effort into it. But C3PO Student Council is planning some fun things along the way to make it engaging and entertaining, and hoping that kids want to do their best and get involved and try hard. So they are wonderful. They are hosted with Megan Glod and Heather Cunningham are our 2 advisors who work really hard with these students on a regular basis and have very positive relationships. The kids planned out what the days are for Spirit Days next week, and we're back with Anything But a Backpack and some other fun events that they're talking about. And what's great that we're seeing morph and change is it was very heavy on the 5th and 6th graders, and we're starting to see 7th and 8th graders joining and staying involved throughout the course of their 4 years, which is really nice.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Good stuff at LMS.
Great stuff.
Yeah,
Any questions?
appreciate the update.
All right, thank you. Sorry to not have the kids with me. It would be way more fun with them.
Yeah. All right, next up on the agenda, we have the student representative report. Hey Zoe, how's
Hi.
it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Tell us what's going on at our schools.
All right, give me 1 sec. Take me a sec to get up here. Because I think I have to share my screen.
Today was SAT day, was it not?
It was.
Yeah. Okay.
The tech is too crazy for me. All right, wait. Now, if I go back here, and then slideshow. All right, we'll go from there. Might be the best I got.
All
on
right.
the screen.
Okay, so our spring sports just started up, like the games and everything. So girls lacrosse, they played against Pembroke for their season opener and won 16-12. Boys lacrosse also had their home opener Monday versus O'Hegan and won 5-4. Softball had their first game versus Milford. They unfortunately lost 9-7. And then baseball also had their home opener Monday. They played Dairyfield and they won 5-4. And then track competed in their first meet last night and they won.
Good stuff.
Yep.
So for some of our past events, we had the FBLA State Leadership Conference. They're actually still selling prom tickets. This is the last week that they're selling them. And then March 18th was the CHS Trades and Career Fair Day, and April 4th was the Easter Egg Hunt, which was at the CHS and GMS fields. And then April 6th through 10th, was the CHS Musical, and then April 8th was the Army Exhibit. For some of the current events today, they had the SATs for the juniors, and then the 17th is the Music All-State Classical Festival. April 22nd, they have another Spain info trip meeting, and April 24th is the blood drive. April 23rd, they have the National Honor Society Bingo Night, which is put on by the National Honor Society students, kind of just like as a fundraiser for Litchfield. May 5th, we have spring athletic photos, and then May 6th is the Driving Towards Zero presentation. For the future events, May 6th through the 14th is the AP testing. May 8th is the junior and senior prom. May 21st is the senior project evaluation. May 26th is the start of Springfest, but I think it's only 4 days this week since we have that Monday off. Basically, it's like 4 days of like just like the spirit days, and then at the end of the week we have like the big pep rally and everything. And I think that they're actually doing something new this year where we're having a mental health specialist come down and talk to us for like the first half of Springfest, kind of just like to fill that gap. And then June 1st we have the senior dinner cruise. For Litchfield Middle School, they also just started their spring sports. They actually have over 140 athletes. And with girls softball, they won in their scrimmage last week, 14-3 versus Goffstown, and they also just received new uniforms. This year, they also have co-ed baseball, girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse, and track and fields. And then, and their drama club also just put on a play. It was the real story of Alice in Wonderland, and there's a bunch of photos from that. For some of their upcoming events, as Ms. Grantham mentioned, they also have a Spirit Week, April 20th through the 24th, and then their 5th annual cornhole tournament, which benefits the Litchfield Veterans Association. Earth Day, the April 22nd, they have a campus cleanup during their links classes, and they also are doing a Going Back in Time, which is a tech-free 24 hours. And then their pep rally, which launches their New Hampshire SAS testing, and again, as Ms. Grantham mentioned, they will be silly stringed by all the students who improved their test scores from last year. And then they also have their Color Run PTO fundraiser for GMS and LMS May 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. For GMS, their first grade had a wonderful field trip to Beaverbrook last Thursday and Friday. And this week, all grades will be participating in their Artists in Residence Junk to Funk. They had an amazing assembly on Monday, and the 4th grade will perform at another assembly this Friday. They have WMUR's Kevin Scrupa will be visiting their kindergarten classes on Thursday, April 23rd. Also on April 23rd, they're recognizing and celebrating their GMS volunteers with a reception at 3:30. And April 24th is their first annual GMS Wellness Day with activities all day for students to choose and participate.
They really loaded you up this time.
I know, right? It's a lot there, it's a lot there. When is the Spain trip actually occurring? Is it during April vacation?
It is next year this year.
Right?
This year, April vacation? I can't keep track. This year, April vacation.
Yes, they go
Got it.
every
There
other
you go.
year, so this is the year over April break.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming we have all the adequate permissions now in place and everything's
Everything.
signed off and.
Yep. We have all copies of people's passports and all the things and collection of paperwork. So, and the meeting, I'm going to the meeting next Wednesday too, just to help reinforce the expectations.
And safety.
Yep.
Got it.
Quick question about the middle school sports. There's 140 athletes, I think I saw in there. Do we know, this is kind of putting you on the spot, but do we know how many are, like, what the grade distribution is?
It's pretty equally distributed. One of the things I think our coaches do a great job of is working to build the programs. So although 5th graders might not get a ton of playing time, they get put on a team so they can start to see how the routines go. And, there are some 5th graders who do get field time depending on the sport, depending on how the game is going. I will say, actually, one of the things, if I have a second to tout how proud I am of our boys lacrosse team. Yesterday they played Runlet Middle School, and it was a very LMS strong team. They could have totally wiped the field with them, and that's not saying anything to disrespect Runlet in any way, shape, or form. But we got 2 amazing emails, one from a Runlet parent who complimented our boys for being kind and polite, and when the kids recognized that they weren't as well trained as our kids are, they coached them through, like, hey, you might want to stand over there, and the next time we're running down the field, this is where you'd really rather be. They offered gloves to the kid who was we had a student on the other team who was in the net for the first time and didn't have the right gloves to protect his hands, and one of our goalies had extra gloves, and he gave it to the other team. So when we say kindness matters, we saw it in fruition yesterday.
Fantastic.
So really
That's awesome.
Boys, it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just curious about that because we did the very well attended forum last night that we'll talk about, and one of the things that we had covered originally with the options of potentially reconfiguring the schools, sports would have been impacted for the middle schoolers.
Yep.
So to
Yep.
hear that there's 140 kids, that's good to know.
It's great. It's great to see them all involved between track and field and lacrosse, both boys and girls, co-ed baseball and softball. they're all awesome kids and awesome teams. So I was out with the girls softball team this afternoon as they were waiting for their backpacks to be picked up before they hiked down to GMS, and they had a great game yesterday as well, so.
Awesome. Good. And those
Cool.
field conditions are okay for them to play on this year?
That's,
Awesome, awesome.
we have some work to do on the trail between, but that's an aside.
Okay, all right, excellent. Any other questions on happenings in the schools?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Zoe. Appreciate the update. All right, we have community comment on agenda items. This is our first of 2 community comments this evening. I'm going to close community comment because there's no community here. But again, there's another opportunity should anyone show up. We have correspondence this evening as well. I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Plansky.
And again, very slow correspondence the last few weeks, mostly bill paying and manifests. We got the minutes on April 6th from the last meeting from Jan Sullivan, and then we had 403B manifest from Anna Marati. I have a hard time with that name. I really need to work on it. From the 7th, then the agenda for this meeting came out on April 10th from Renee Burgess, and then the 13th, a flurry of manifests from Ann, payroll, AP, and then credit card manifest. That was really it.
Okay, thank you. I do think, just checking my internet timed out here.
Well, we don't have a legislative update.
I might give a quick brief one.
Checking.
You have one?
I thought there was one more, right, so there was also a email to the board from Miss LaFlame in town, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, regarding just some direction of the school system. I did respond to that email asking, or just offering a phone call. That has not been arranged yet, but acknowledgement to the response was provided, so I just wanted to put that for the minutes as well.
Yeah, I'll add that to the sheet. My apologies. I thought that was just an initial email just to you.
Yep, all
The
good.
whole board.
All good, I just want to make sure that was covered.
I'll get it in there.
Awesome. Okay, yep, legislative update, we don't have Mr. Peoples.
Sounds like
I don't. I'll just have a quick thing just to keep on the board's radar with the open enrollment, because there was an article, I think, in the Union Leader or Monitor today, or MUR, somewhere, that I believe it passed the Senate, or no, it passed the Education Policy Committee. So it passed out of that group and is moving forward to votes in the Senate and the House there.
I think Ray said they were voting tomorrow, right?
I believe he said that last night, possibly, yeah, when we talked about it. But that did move forward, and if you have not a chance to read the adjusted bill, it got adjusted from what originally went out there. I think it's an improvement of what was the original bill. Still, I think there's some questions that need to be answered, and, we've talked with Ray about it in the past, about special ed funding and stuff like that. But that's something just to keep on everyone's radar still, is the open enrollment bill.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll just keep it with you and get into the superintendent report.
Yeah. First thing I want to bring to your attention is athletic training, and this is more to bring something to you. We're not in a problem or a solution stage yet, but want to make you aware. So we currently contract out our athletic training services. Well, many school districts do this. We have a provider. There's, I think, a couple in the state that do this, that provide athletic trainers for schools. There's a high likelihood that our current athletic trainer that we get through the provider is moving on for some positive things in his personal life. I don't want to overspeak my on his behalf or anything like that, so that he'll no longer be with us next school year. And when that occurs, the provider is very concerned on whether or not he'll have a replacement for our athletic trainer. So we could be facing a situation where we do not have an athletic trainer, which is problematic because we need medical coverage for, at a minimum, any games that we host. That is a requirement of being part of the NHIAA, which is who we play all our sports from. When you don't have that athletic training, you can contract out with local EMTs or other medical professionals, but that gets very costly very quickly. Just looking at regular season games, Tony priced out what it would take to just cover the games in like that type of format. It'd be about $50,000 at least. So it's not a practical solution, and so that's something we need to work on a solution for that. You recall, we had a warrant article a couple years ago related to trying to bring on an athletic trainer of our own. I think other districts are recognizing the shortages through these contracted services and are also pursuing those ideas as well as trying to find their own athletic trainers. I think one of the challenges that we're going to face is that warrant article. At the time, we were kind of ahead of it, and because we were ahead of it, we did not include benefits with the position. And it seems like now people who are bringing these positions on in-house are providing benefits for the positions as well. So if we're going to keep up with the Joneses, shall we say, that's what eventually we may need to look at doing that and then re-going out to try and get that type of position. So
Is
that's,
this like a full-time position you would need to hire for?
we got to talk it through. I'm not coming with any
Right,
proposals
I'm
or
just
anything like
brainstorming
that.
here,
But
yeah.
brainstorming, as we were brainstorming with, Tony Ramos, our AD,
Yeah.
if we could bring on a full-time person, and then what other things could this full-time person do for us because I think there's a need from the after-school session through any games, and any practices and stuff like that. But the schedule is going to vary day to day, right? In the fall, if you have a heavy set of games, you might be going from, right after school till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night if there's volleyball in the gym as well. Other days you might just be staying for practice. You'll be done by 6 o'clock because everyone's out and done with their practices. So if you're going to maintain that as a full-time position, what other things can that person do? Can you bridge their day from like 12 to 9, 1 to 9, something like that, and give them other responsibilities in the school day to help with the school system? If it's, there are easy things like subbing for classes, helping with administrative responsibilities, those type of things that we could always use help for. And maybe that just becomes part of the job description, but we would have to need to iron those things out. I do think it would need to be some sort of full-time position if we're going to be competitive with other school districts that are going in this direction.
So we used to have a athletic athletic trainer, but I don't know if at the time if he had benefits or not. But,
Yeah. So at
he
a
was here for a
previous,
good long time.
Yeah,
He's actually in Amherst right now.
previous school district that we were a part of, we were very fortunate. One of the PE teachers was also certified as an athletic trainer. So the position was a part-time, the athletic trainer position was part-time, not benefit dependent, because there was someone in-house who already had the ability to do those duties. But that was a fortunate situation, and I think it's less likely than probable that you're going to find those type of people who can double dip in that capacity for you and stuff. It's something we're still in the early stages of exploring, but we were alerted to this potential issue between the last two board meetings, so I just wanted to bring it to the
What
board's
happens when
attention.
there's multiple sports at the same time?
You can spread yourself out because you have the coverage. I mean, we utilize the golf cart or the gate or whatever the case may be, and the trainer can bounce back to back. Everyone's got radios on them, so the emergency kits that go out, the trainer every day gets the medical kit ready for the teams. The team picks up their medical kit, and as part of that is a walkie, so they can quickly walkie, hey, if you're on the football field and there's a sprained ankle on the soccer field, he can hop in the car. Well, this is a bad analogy because he'll now have to hop in a physical car and drive down to the soccer field. But you can get people to and from in that way, and they can go bounce around the different
Is it the same
activities.
requirement for the middle school?
Well, right now with our contract, our athletic trainer does not cover the middle school,
Yeah.
right? I think if we were to bring on a full-time person like that, it would be a requirement of the position. You're also covering the middle school athletic events. I think if we had a
That would make it even more
legitimate,
difficult
Yeah,
to
that's-
cover.
Yeah, for.
right. I think if we had a legitimate issue at the middle school right now, our trainer would go address it, right? Like he's not going to not help
My
a
job,
kid,
man.
right? Because of that situation. But by contract, we're only contracted for the high school events.
It's only required for the high school?
So what are we obligated to do as a district in terms of training? Like,
We're obligated to cover the medically games for NHIA events, which is
High school.
the vast majority of all our high school events.
home and away, or
Home,
just home?
just and the home
The home
team's
team
always
covers.
responsible for the coverage.
But that same requirement is not applicable for the middle school.
Not currently.
Okay.
But Tri-County is starting to get folded into NHIAA, so it could be down the road.
Okay.
But it's not currently.
Are we required, not that I'm trying to go this direction, but just out of curiosity, are we required to host a certain number of home games?
I don't know the answer to that. Like, you usually split, right? Like, it's a
Yeah.
split about half and half. I don't know if there's you have minimum
The
game,
busing costs go up.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the analysis, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like,
You have minimum games you have to schedule, right? Like lacrosse, for example, I believe you have to schedule a minimum of 12 games. You can schedule more than that, you can schedule 16, you can schedule 18, whatever the case may be. But the minimum to be tournament eligible is to schedule 12 games and have it be an official sport. Now, I guess in theory, you could schedule 12 away games, right? I don't think schools are gonna,
Love that.
well, I think other schools don't mind, they're hosting all the time,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But I think our kids would get tired of traveling, families would get tired of that all the time too.
And
so.
again, the transportation costs would be huge. But I
Unless
think
we had a
that
van.
as we start to, well, yeah, the whole lacrosse team's not better than the van though. I think as we start to analyze these things though with cost, right? Like we have to think of what is every possible scenario, because at the end of the day, one unfortunate scenario would be that we can't have sports anymore because we can't fulfill our obligations.
Yep.
But as we look at each of them, one of them would potentially be doing less home games, but we would need to figure out what the transportation costs would be. So just something to be aware of as you're working through.
This is a quick aside, but related. I've always thought, observationally, we put a lot of supervision into the school day, understandably, right? That's where the bulk of our people are every single day and everything like that. And when we shift out of the school day into co-curricular time, not just athletics, but any co-curriculars, theater, music, whatever the case may be, just clubs and activities, our supervision lessens so much so, right? Like we no longer have, like during the day we have a nurse in each building, right? In the evening we don't, right? Like the only real administrator on during the night is the high school athletic director, right? Like for everything going on. So it's kind of never been a huge issue in
Sounds
schools.
like Tony
across
needs to
the
get
board.
trained up, I don't know.
What's that?
Sounds like Tony needs to get trained up.
Well, I think he is, right? He's capable of handling any situation that arises, right? Like, we've had situations where the fire alarm's gone off and he's the one organizing everything, kind of talking to the police, doing those things. So there is value to having this type, an extra adult who can go to different buildings and have some sort of supervision capacity and help with safety stuff, like if the kid sprains their ankle doing the players, stuff like that, like be able to address that. Again, I think Jesse, who's our current athletic trainer, would help out if there's a legitimate emergency, but like contractually, he's not obligated to do that. So, just food for thought, something to bring to the board's
Well, I'm
attention.
sure you're gonna keep us posted as we progress throughout the rest of the year here.
We will. I mean, yeah. It'll probably be an ongoing thing, kind of moving forward, to talk about a little bit, ideas.
All right. Health insurance.
Health insurance, all right. Just to recap for everybody.
Let's recap and make sure that the public is along the journey with us in this one.
That's where I wanted to go, right? I hope, I actually wrote down notes for this one, so I don't forget stuff.
Teleprompter, here we go.
Yeah, all right. So I hope people, well, I don't know if hope is the right word. I would hope people do remember that in the fall, school care offered assessments to school districts across the state of New Hampshire. It totaled $30 million. Litchfield specifically was $430,000, right? We as a school district were first of all, this was shocking to everybody. We got no advance notice of it. It came out, even though it was an expense from the previous fiscal year, we were told in this fiscal year, when we couldn't budget for it, couldn't do anything about it, and a whole lot of money to have to come up with quickly. We were very, very fortunate as a district that we were able to access end of the year funds from the year before to pay this bill. And that was not only because we had the funds, but also the state allowed us to reopen our books and go back to do those expenses. That was an exception done by the state for school districts and municipalities that were in this
State, our
situation.
accountants and lawyers were all.
Everybody
Everyone was in
was on
alignment with
board
that.
for it, are allowing us to do that, because the books were closed when we were closing up, right? Like when we were in the process of doing all of this. So we were fortunate that we were able to pay it and really not interrupt any services for our people, interrupt our services this year by having to cut things and rearrange money in this year and everything in that type of situation. And then we kind of solved that issue and we kind of moved forward. But if people can remember back then, we talked about we need to find different options. We need to look at different options for health insurance so we're not in the situation again where we're surprised with $100,000 bills in new fiscal years and everything associated with it. So we have been diligently working on that out of the SAU office, right? We've been getting different numbers from different brokers, different organizations and groups that provide health insurance, the different networks that are out there to provide health insurance, and doing all our due diligence of learning about the different ways to provide insurance, self-insurance versus full insurance versus combinations of them, captive, stop losses, everything kind of associated with it. and getting different quotes and different numbers from the different groups that we've been reaching out to and getting this work done with, to figure out a solution that works for this district long-term, because what we cannot to do is be in a position where we repeatedly have the fear of an assessment coming for our district. I have concerns about where school care is headed in general. Other districts are leaving school care.
Or just
So-
not paying.
Or not paying.
Just refusing to pay.
Dover is the most recent, most public district to have a pretty public dispute with school care right now. People can read about that at their leisure to learn about it. But it is a huge challenge in our education industry right now, what to do with the risk pool situations that are put up there. So school districts are starting to look at other options, ourselves included. We've done all the due diligence and work to do it. Our goals, what I'm building up to, is that we're going to shift next year, is I would like to shift next year. And as we've gone through this process, we've looked at the cost of our plans, saying the plans have to remain the same cost for us, both the district and employees, for next year. We're just not doing anything that would result in more costs. All issues with school care aside. And that it's got to be the same exact plans in place for everybody as we move into next year, because that's not fair to anybody, right? We have CBAs we got to honor, we got different things we have to honor for people like that. So with those parameters in place, we were having discussions with the different brokers and everybody kind of a point to that. We've gotten to a point, and through this process, we've met with the LEA, we met with the LSSA, informed them at various stages of where we were in the process as we were kind of going through all this. Made sure we were aligning with the CBAs. The LEA CBA allows us this flexibility to look at different brokers. The LSSA was very specific, so we had to work through an MOA with them to potentially to execute this. And moving kind of forward to where we are now, we have a broker, One Digital, who has agreed to all of the things that we need and is able to provide us with the same exact plans that we have, with the same cost for the district and for the employees. And then the new network that they would be going to, that people will be on, is the Anthem Health Network, right? Which is the biggest network we have in the New England kind of area when it comes to health insurance. So it's a positive from that aspect. Cigna, who we're on right now, is a good network too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to pick one or the other. But we wanted to ensure that we were still with a strong health insurance network as we were kind of looking at these changes. So we are prepared to leave school care and move to One Digital with the same plans in place, same costs in place, with everything kind of associated with health insurance. So I'm coming to the board this evening with that request to leave school care effective June 30th and move on to One Digital effective July 1st for everybody in the district for health insurance. And I can't stress enough, nothing is changing. That is the absolute we had with everybody as we went through this process. Now, what people may ask, why One Digital? What is the advantage to this? What it allows us is a slightly different model. I'm going to try to summarize a lot very quickly and make it simple if I can. I'm going to flip. I have more notes for this to make sure I do this correctly. So summarize, school care is a collection of public entities, school district, municipalities. They come together and receive a pooled insurance rate, right? So all our rate, like that big group of organizations, thousands of people come together, and that thousands of people get a rate on their insurance, right? So school care, the entity, is a self-insured entity. The groups that are part of school care are considered more in the fully funded model of insurance, right? Because they're not necessarily controlling the rate exclusively based on their organization. They're part of that bigger group. And they're not dictating the plan that's available for employees that are part of that group. We're going to shift to a model where we become more of the self-insured, and where we become involved with other entities is when we take on some shared risks in a captive environment. So we shift into a captive. We're responsible for our own claims. If claims hit certain thresholds, we shift into a captive level and then a stop-loss level that offers us protection if there are if expensive claims come across. And there's thresholds for those different numbers and stuff like that. One of the nice things about doing it in that kind of reverse model, where we start with the self-insured to join groups later on, is we control the aspects of the plan, which is why we were allowed to get exactly the same plan we have in place now. And it allows us to look at our own data moving forward and make adjustments based on our actual claims history, right? When we went into this process and we started getting quoted from networks, Our claims are actually pretty positive, right? Like we more often than not are doing better than the larger group, right? So our history is, it's not true every single year. Sometimes, you know, we're a little bit more dependent on the group. Sometimes that we're less dependent on the group and helping a little bit more. But we're pretty strong overall. So we were able to get some a good rate with our broker people that we're working with here. And so we are allowed to budget at this level of maximum exposure, which is what we have budgeted right now, and it potentially allows us savings if we don't hit that maximum exposure. If we do as we project, we will not hit that maximum exposure. And the maximum exposure is only if we go bad and everyone else in the group goes bad. That's when the maximum exposure hits. So it's not likely that that would hit. The advantage of this is, while we can budget for max exposure right now, as we have history and hopefully can build up reserve funds, we've talked about, we had a warrant article this past March about trying to build up our own reserve funds for insurance. We can budget more and more towards our projected numbers, which is where the savings comes in for the district. So instead of like the rate of increase from last year to this year for school, for insurance is an average of 14.4% for us across the district. We're looking to lower that increase. I don't think we're going to be able to decrease the amount of money we're paying in health insurance, but if we can slow down that increase compared to where it was in the risk pools, we're saving that difference between the two groups there. That savings for us in insurance allows us to budget at a lower amount. And we need to do that by building up our reserve funds. So that's the difference in the model, is essentially we have more control. That's what we're looking for, is we want the control. Now the risk is we are taking control, right? Like we have to do this correctly. We have to be dedicated to following it. We have to be reactive when we see our claims history and everything that's coming forward with it, right? We have had positive history from our claims recently in the time, and that needs to continue. Doesn't mean it has to be perfect all the time. Doesn't mean everyone has to be healthy all the time. It's assumed people are not healthy all the time, right? We just got to be careful of anything. And this is why you have different protection layers with the captive group and the stop loss and everything like that. But we got to be attentive to what's going on with our own insurance information that's out there in claims that we're filing and stuff like that. So that's where we're at. And I'm looking from the board, well, first, any questions, and ultimately what I'm looking for is approval from the board to leave school care and shift to One Digital.
By all means.
I'd like to thank you for the update, and thank you for bringing everyone along so everyone can follow at home and kind of get to where we are today, and why this is ultimately a positive change for the district, right? I do view Litchfield as a pioneer in a sense, right? Because we are kind of setting the course. We're small and nimble enough as a district to be able to do something like this, but I want to make sure I take the opportunity to thank, right? To thank yourself, to thank Business Administrator Darling, to thank Holly, right? To thank Mr. Shoemaker, right? Who really led the efforts on a lot of this work for us to get us to this point, right? It's been a tremendous effort by a lot of people. I'd like to thank the LEA, the LSSA, right, for just, you know, being open to the change, right? I understand change is hard. I understand it impacts a lot of people for insurance-specific matters, but ultimately, we truly believe that this is a good change to make, not only for our people, but also for the taxpayers in town and for our district. As the superintendent mentioned, there's, you know, a lot has to go wrong in order to hit those max numbers that are just not probable, right? It's possible, but they're not probable. We are assuming more risk as a district, so I'd also like to thank the taxpayers who voted to approve warrant articles this past March, because we're now able to build up a bit of a reserve account in our health insurance specific account that allows for a bit of coverage in the event that there is risk that comes back to us as a district as a result of this change, right? So as we take on more of these risks and more of these responsibilities, right, we're trying to do so in a way that is beneficial to the district and the taxpayers. So, Mr. Shoemaker, I know you got a lot to say here.
I don't know if I have a lot.
Okay.
I'll try to keep it brief. I think, you know, one thing that I just wanted to reiterate is that when we were assessed, we were told we do not have a choice. We were told by our legal counsel. So we did try to fight. It looks like, I just Googled, it looks like Dover's still trying to fight. It sounds like they're the only holdout that's still trying to fight. We really are a pioneer in this, because other districts that are larger, like Dover, I didn't really look into their situation entirely, but they're probably going to closer to a true fully insured model where they are it. The thing that's really interesting for us is that the captive model is a model that's going to allow us to be still in a pooled risk program to some extent with other schools. The captive that we're going into is largely private schools, but it's still other schools, so it's a similar risk sort of group. But one of the biggest problems with what we found with school care and the situation with school care is it is regulated by state statute, and one of the biggest problems is that there are limits on the reserves, and that proved to be a huge problem. So I think we were potentially, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to the other people who are stuck with school care still. We had a very unique opportunity right now because the stars really have to align to be able to make moves. As the superintendent said, our risk profile right now was favorable, so we were able to be welcomed into this captive. It's not you can't just say to this captive, hey, we want to be a member, and they don't have to accept you. So we were very lucky. Now that we're in, and we have the ability to really kind of forge ahead and hopefully continue to have some really good savings. The reserves are critical to us being able to function and to really optimize this. So I really think it's really appreciate the taxpayers voting to put that money into reserves. And ultimately, if we are able to save money every year, the goal will be to continue to put money into reserves, because the more that we can do that, the more that we can sort of level out the costs associated with health insurance and provide value to the taxpayers in the form of leveling out the tax obligations. So the nice thing with this is, as we've already, our budget this year was already to the max exposure. And with this type of model, there is stop loss insurance at the top, so we will not go above that. Unlike with school care, I believe there was stop loss, but it was incredibly high, which is how we got assessed. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how we perform. Hopefully we perform really well and recognize some really great savings this year. And hopefully it'll be a great path forward.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm excited learning about this process, excitement, I don't know, maybe excitement is the right word. Intriguing things about this is the ability to really understand our own data and how we can look at what we're offering to cater to our specific employees, right? And I think the more we learned about the school care model, and I don't necessarily want this to be bash school care, even though it's going to come across that way. They've been good partners for the district for a long time, assessment aside. But you're at the mercy of what they're offering, right? And so if we're not having a lot of high claims, for example, right, and we could benefit from different thresholds in a captive group or in a stop loss, we can then go and negotiate that ourselves now, right? And we have that flexibility to pivot and look at our own data and figure out what matches for us specifically. And that will ultimately lead to savings for the districts. And those savings also are for our employees as well, because they pay a percentage of the insurance, right? If we're saving money, they're saving money. It works, we're codependent in that way, right? Because we both have stakes in the insurance model, because we don't fully pay for the insurance for our employees, they're paying a percentage, right? So they will benefit from it as well if we're looking at ways that we can do this smarter and more intelligently. I think from an education standpoint, this is an aspect that in our profession we really, really, really need to start investing a lot of time in. Usually, typically, it's been you're either in health trust or school care and you just call it a day. I think when we started this process, you guys asked me, well, why do we do this? Oh, it's just what we do, right? And that's how you handle this. But the more we learn and dig into it, we can be attentive and look at things that actually work for this district better and smarter for everybody. The district, our employees, the town, and everyone who's contributing. So I'm optimistic about this. Again, we've been working this through with the two unions, and even our non-union people, we've been trying to keep them up to speed with where we're going, so it's not a complete shock for everybody as we go through. I have a message ready to go in the event that this meeting went well. So, where we'll outline opportunities to talk with our employees about specifically their own situations and general questions kind of related to everything. While we talk about it being a big change, because we're able to keep the costs the same and the plans the same, there's not going to be a ton of actual change for our employees, right? They're going to have a different ID card, right, from a different network. But again, the network's Anthem, which is the largest network we have in New England and everything. So we're hoping it's actually very minimal, like, effect on what's going on for our employees on the day-to-day, so, because everything remains the same in the plans.
Any questions, comments?
I really just want to echo what Mr. Cutter and Mr. Shoemaker have said, and I think the biggest advantage is when this came to be, the superintendent and the board acted very quickly. What are our other options? I think there's other districts out there now saying, we really should have looked at this 4 months ago when it first came out, because now they're, a lot of them, I think, are stuck with.
For another year.
For another, whole another season with,
And hopefully not a whole nother assessment, but.
right. And
Well, I think that, sorry to interrupt, but that is something I just want to be transparent on. We are in school care right now. If school care was to issue an assessment based upon this school year, we would likely have to pay it. I don't anticipate that, right? Because it would just be
They've been collecting a
disastrous
lot
for
of money.
them, right? But like, I just want to be clear with that, right? Like, we are in school care to June 30th and are still responsible for any expenses through June 30th with school care, so.
do we have
Sorry.
any idea how they're doing financially?
They tell us they're doing better. Like, that's what the quarterly reporting out is. I like to believe, because I think there are genuine people there, good people there, whatever mistake they made was significant. I don't want to underestimate that, but they have been more attentive of keeping us up to date on where their finances are. And I think people have been more attentive of asking them how their finances are and stuff like that.
Plugging forever,
Right.
that's what we're doing.
So I do think they're a healthier entity from where they were at this time a year ago, so.
Okay.
All right, I will make a motion, as of July 1st, right?
July 1st.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the district shift from school care to One Digital, effective July 1st, 2026. Second. Motion by myself, second by Mr. Shoemaker. Additional discussion? Thank you again for all of the tremendous work that went into this. This was not just a quick decision. This was months and months in the making with a lot of research put into it.
Yeah, and I want to shout out Holly Falzone, our human resources person, who her work on this. Obviously, me and Julie have been a part of it in our respective roles, but Holly, she's worked exhaustively on this and helped to make everything right for everybody. Her knowledge of all of it is incredible, right? She's asking the right questions and pushing the different groups we've talked with throughout the whole process to make sure that it all is correct, right? And that we're not putting anybody, employees, district, anybody in a bad place with any of this.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Well, it's not a 5-0, but you got a 3-0.
All right.
All right, appreciate that update, thank you.
All right, I got end of the year field trips next. I just want to open this up for questions, because I know there've been questions about different field trips that we've had.
Before we do,
Yeah.
I know, Ms. Burke, you have schoolwork and a lot of other things going on tonight. Is the board okay if she enjoys the rest of her evening? You're welcome to stay as well, of course.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. So it is field trip season.
It is field trip season,
Yes.
and field trips. I have a personal I say this with a smile. I have a personal kind of shrug to field trips, not in a negative way, not in a positive way. So, as a teacher, I never went on field trips, and I had no interest in going on field trips. As a building principal, I think I approved literally every field trip that crossed my table, and there were so many field trips in my previous school. We had a weekly section of this is the 5 or 6 field trips going out. So I'm in that zone of just hey, they're awesome, but I'm not putting that effort in. know? So that's why sometimes I'm a little whatever on field trips. But I know they're important, and that they're valuable, and that they're and what we're trying to, and why I kind of left this as a bigger thing. I would love, we got to deal with current issues, but then I want to take a step back this summer and really trying to focus, I think, as we've seen at the schools, is try to figure out what our core experiences for our kids that we want the kids to participate in. And I'm going to use the senior cruise, for example, because this has happened in 3 different school districts I've been a part of, where the senior cruise is a core concluding event for kids, because it's just an incredible field trip. Even though my indifference in general, I love that field trip to death, because it's this great experience with a class you're saying goodbye to, and it's just it's just a great field trip. You're on the water in Boston, and so on and so forth. So what are the events that are core trips that we need to make sure that kids are experiencing at different points of their life? Why are we doing field trips, right? Like making sure there's an educational value to everything that we're doing. There's ability to have social field trips, which is great from time to time, building camaraderie across a group of kids in a class, but there still should be an element of some sort of academic point to all of this. And then just being transparent of like when we can go on field trips, right? Like so on and so forth. So I say that because eventually I'm going to put something out and I'm going to look for input from community people. This is going to be over the summer likely, and putting a little committee together to map this stuff out so we can answer questions more easily when things kind of come up. Now I know we want to talk about, and I think this will lead into what we're looking at 8th grade. You know, field trips is one of the things that we're looking at. And this is actually has happened again in multiple places I've been with where it kind of originated where kids used to go on the DC trip, but for a lot of different reasons, DC trips don't exist anymore. Across I did DC in 8th grade when I was growing up, but it just doesn't happen anymore. And that's been true of a lot of school districts that have moved away from that trip for different things. And as we've gone away from that type of trip, which I actually think is the right decision, you know, like I have feelings about that type of trip. It's a tough trip to actually execute nowadays. But if we're moving away, when we've moved away from those trips, what have we done to kind of replace them and making sure we're all on the same page? There's also, it helps with the adults, like I'm going to use the high school as an example of this. As you turn over advisors all the time, right, like having their set trips, like this is set for you, right, like this is the experience you're going to go on, doesn't have competing, like, well, I have a great advisor who raised all this money for us, so we're going to go on 10 trips. Well, this advisor didn't raise all this money, so we can only go on 1. Well, what are we establishing that are the set things for us to kind of do and stuff like that? So that was a roundabout way to say, like, I know there's been some discussion about the 8th grade field trip to Boston, and I would like to kind of just hash that out so where everything's on a good up and up when it comes to field trips, knowing that we need to have a bigger discussion about it in the future.
Yeah, okay, great.
So working with Miss Grantham, I think we're trying to figure out a way to make the trip down to Boston happen. We're working on the chaperone component of it. We have a day kind of circled up right now, super tentatively. I'm looking to you to help me along here if I get stuck.
Do you want to come up?
Want me to chime in?
It's
Please, come on
it's
up.
up to you.
So, speaking specifically of the Boston field trip, this was one that our teachers were not super comfortable with leading up to before this year and this year. The trip itself has an educational component that they walk the Freedom Trail. It's a 90-minute walk from the Boston Common to Faneuil Hall, and then there has been a past practice of at Faneuil Hall kids going off and eating and shopping and doing some things at that point. That's where the teachers have a little bit of panic because we're still talking about 13 and 14-year-olds in a major city, and not to pick on Litchfield, but we are not a major city in any way, shape, or form. So there were some safety concerns that the teachers have expressed in the past, but our previous social studies teacher had booked it despite the hesitation of the teammates on her team at the time. With the new social studies teacher, the team this year didn't feel comfortable as teachers to take that trip because it's a supervisory concern. You cannot possibly keep the kids all in one section or one area in Faneuil Hall. For those of you that have seen it recently, it's kind of spread out all over the place. A lot of the restaurants have packed up and left, and some of the stores have packed up and left, so it would be, kind of giving these 14-year-olds free access to a major city. So, and it's an extended day trip, so the staff had decided to alter it. And in my time in 8th grade, it has been 4 different sets of field trips. They have not been the same all 4 years. This year being the 5th year, we have had 3 trips, we have had 2 trips, we have had 1 trip, we have had 2 trips. So it's been up and down. They used to do the COG Railway. When we started with the group that is currently seniors, we went to the COG, we went to Portsmouth Harbor Cruise, we went to Boston in replacement of that DC trip. Then they went to the COG the 2nd year. They decided that trip took too long to get up there, and it was a great experience, but it was really cold on the top of the mountain when you're going in May. So they took that one off the table. So this was, the idea this year from the teachers was that they were going to provide some more spread out throughout the year field trips. So they did not feel comfortable with taking the kids to Boston, and it's not about the group of kids per se, but just about the experience itself and safety and security. So it was, they're not interested in going as teachers, but as Superintendent O'Connell said, we have looked at, because I've heard from parents that have said that they're interested in going. It would require us to have 10 parent chaperones in a very short turnaround window, and along with a lot of funds, because it is not a cheap trip to take. We're talking about probably around the 20, I haven't calculated the buses yet, and I haven't secured the buses yet, which is the other moving part and pieces. So it hasn't been a hard no, but it has been a no in that there are safety concerns that have led up to this, which is, I hear the parents' concerns and wanting to have that opportunity for their kids. However, I have also talked with Brian at length about, not wanting to take something away from kids that they're expecting to have happen without that clarity of what does a field trip look like. So we have secured the walking tour as a date tentatively, but we have not yet secured the buses. So once we figure out if those two things can happen simultaneously, we're going to send out communication, and we would require 10 parent chaperones that are vested and vetted to be able to go and understand that it's a supervisory challenge to keep kids safe, not to run across the street, not to buy things they shouldn't buy in the stores, like we hypothetically, without disclosing any information, have had kids buy a one-chip challenge and try it down there, which is that really hot chip that can cause 911 to have to be called if you consume it not at the wrong time. We've had situations where kids have purchased little trinket things that seem like they're fun or interesting, but might involve things that shouldn't come back to school. So there's a lot of supervision that's going to be required. I will go as the staff member if that's something that is requested, as long as we can secure those buses.
So do you have a date?
Not with the buses yet. That's what we have to
Do
wait
you have
for.
a date for the walking tour?
We have one secured for the walking tour, the tentative information from the walking tour company for May 11th at this point in time. Because it's also, we have to move it around all of the other parts and pieces in May and June, because we have 8th graders go to Canopy, which is their,
The big
Are
day?
they still doing Canopy?
yep,
So that is confirmed.
that is confirmed. That is already set. It's an extended day trip for the teachers. They are staying beyond. So they are going to Canopy. They did a field trip in the fall. So they've already had 2 field trips for this year, which is one of the things that used to happen when I first came to LMS, is there were like 19 field trips in May and June. What I ask teachers to do as I've worked through field trips, because I'm not opposed to field trips, as long as they're educational in value, have a purpose, and are safe and secure for our students. I've asked them to kind of spread them out over the course of the year, so it's not all like all of a sudden, wait, where's our whole building in all of May and June? And it starts that, once you start the field trip train, it kind of starts the behaviors slipping up and other things as well, so.
When the decision was made to not do the Boston trip, was there any parent communications with that decision?
I don't know, because I wouldn't say there were communications when we got rid of the COG trip. It just, here are the trips that are being offered for this year. It would just, in year to year, I've never had it be where it's an assumed expectation that you're going on every single trip the previous class has gone on.
But I would expect if chaperones was truly the issue, that there would have been communication out to that group of parents before a decision was made just to cancel it altogether. Right, and now to be reactive to it and say, no, we're going to put it back on the books if they're chaperones, you'd think there'd be some type of communications with the parents to say, hey, this is what we need to do in order to make this successful before decisions are
Well,
made.
what I'm hearing is it wasn't offered. Is that what you're saying? Is it wasn't even offered as something that was on the books for this year?
But because we've done it for the past 2 years, and it have had,
Many years,
right, it had a lot of parents reach out on this one, right?
traditional.
There was an expectation, so to speak, right, that, hey, this is what the 8th grade class does. We do Boston, we do Canopy, right? And now all of a sudden, there's no communications, and it's just taken away from these kids.
I think that's why I want to take time away from the heat of the moment and establish what are these things, these trips or these experiences that there's an expectation that they occur, right? Because I think that's where some of, hearing talking with different people about this issue, and I think everyone's right as often, right? Like where I don't know if people thought that this was one of those marker trips, right? Where it sounds like there were parents that did believe that it is one of those marker trips. So like, let's clarify that, right? Let's figure out, is this one of those experiences that, is it going on a trip or is it going specifically to Boston, right? Those type of things that we need to kind of step back and figure out what we want to do. And like, I think we're going to have a similar discussion at the high school around the senior stuff, because we want to make sure that that's a concluding experience in the same vein. And figure out what that is. I think, I don't know where they were in the field trip process, right? Like the spring when things kind of started coming up related to this field trip. Word got out there that there weren't any trips being planned, and we knew the Canopy Lake was being planned, so there was a lot of confusion, and that's okay. We'll figure that stuff out. That stuff happens, right? It's fine. But we do want to make sure that, but this is, again, why we want to establish this is the stuff that we do, and this is why.
So just
right?
for Canopy, right, are you going to need the same level of chaperones? I mean, the kids there are pretty spread out as well.
It's an enclosed area, right? So if you go to Canopy, they have check-ins with the chaperones. They do have additional chaperones, but they have staff chaperones, and it's something that the staff are signing on to, because again, it's beyond their contracted day. You are asking them they're staying till 4:00 or whatever the given time is for that day. The kids have check-ins in different points. In a city like Boston, when you're walking down narrow streets and they're not closed to the public, a lot of times the days that we go to Canopy in, I think the date is at the end of May. I'm not sure what the date is off the top of my head right now. But they're for school trips. It's a lot of school trips that happen during the day, so it's a bunch of 8th grade classes or a bunch of chorus classes or a bunch of whatever it is that are there for school purposes. It's not as open. If a kid decided to cross the street on the tour and we didn't catch them crossing the street and go in the wrong direction, we could be halfway down the block and not realize we've lost a student. I'm not saying that would happen, because if I'm there, I'm going to make sure I'm counting heads the whole time, and groups are going to stay together, and it's just not as easy in a situation like walking through the city streets of Boston.
Canopy has security too. They have a lot of security there.
I feel really secure. Yeah, okay.
So our trips basically, like, is it the beginning of the year that we say like, hey, these are the trips that are happening this year? It just kind of like trickles and
It trickles as, for example, 7th grade this year had a trip that popped up. They were able to go see Christmas Carol. They went to see Christmas Carol last year, but the year before they didn't. Instead, they went to go see a movie see The Outsiders at the end of the year to go do an activity that was tied to the reading that they were doing. Each group of teachers, in my experience, has formulated a plan together of what trips they wanted to take. There was no communication that went out when we got rid of the Portsmouth cruise. That was a 1 year done. There was no communication in regards to that. It was just because that group did, at that point in time, I think they went to a Fisher Cats game instead. So the teachers try to put together a package for the students so they have a similar experience, but it doesn't necessarily mean the same trip. When parents have reached out in regards to wondering what's going on with the Boston trip, I've been open and honest in regards to what the responses are and what the teachers have worked on planning together, and that they are still getting a culminating activity with the idea of the Canopy trip.
And I'll go back to, I think it's sort of been traditional that the Canopy trip and the Boston trip happen for the 8th grade. It's kind of their end of their middle school experience. I'm also disappointed that we don't go to DC with the 6th grade. I think that's a great trip.
I think that should be part of your questionnaire again, or,
I know it's a wicked hard trip to
It's a hard
staff,
trip. It's a
but I
hard
think
trip.
you could get parents to
I
go.
think you can get parents to do it too.
Yeah, I think one of the things with those
education.
overnight
My kids love
trips, like and maybe I just wear my administrator hat too often nowadays, where just like I can envision every issue that could possibly happen in these situations. DC's a volatile place right now, period. One of my concerns is, I don't know how to say this in the most PC way, so I'm going to probably screw this up, but like back when we were young, we didn't have social media. So if we, like, not that any of us got into mischief on these trips, but we weren't necessarily like putting that mischief all over the place, and putting other things at risk because we are developing, kids are developing their thought process and how they handle stuff and their responsibility for things. So if anyone was to do something stupid, say in a hotel room on their 8th grade trip, not that I have any experience with this myself, but like it wasn't ended up on social media, that could have more dire consequences than necessary, right? So I think maneuvering these new age challenges that we have when it comes to these overnight trips, who's supervising them, it's a tough ask for staff. I'm grateful for staff who do, example, the
Nature's Classroom.
the adventure classroom thing that they do, because that's a week away from their family overnight. And
I did
those-
Nature's Classroom.
Yeah, and anyone who
But it's a
chaperones it.
secure campus that you have a girls' dorm and a boys' dorm that are locked. It's
Right,
not going
and-
into a
and you know
hotel.
what?
And
That's
we have-
great, but boys will be boys.
You can also, just to also add to the DC thing, and then I'm gonna stop talking. We have about 8 families that can't afford to go to Nature's Classroom, which is $400. The last time we quoted DC, it was over $1,200. And we would have to be able to fund that as a school because FAPE exists, and we would need to make sure that we have the money to do that, and we don't have the coffers to. Our school pictures accounts don't generate the same amount of money as they used to, and that's all the extra money we
Used to raise
have.
money to
there's
pay for the
there's
fundraising, right? Because we had an issue a few years ago.
I think in any event, right, I do think having a structured plan in place for how we handle field trips is a good idea.
Yep.
And I think having that plan laid out in advance of next year's school start, saying this is the plan, this
the plan.
is
The
first
philosophy.
grade,
is the
kindergarten
plan.
first,
Yep.
right? This is what we do.
Yep.
Right? That way it's structured and ready to roll.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the age of the kids or just happenstance or just sure kind of dumb luck at this point, but elementary has a nice model. They do a fall field trip with the kids and they do a spring field trip.
Doing
with
the butterfly place, right?
Right. And sometimes they're different and sometimes they're the same. Kindergarten, I noticed went to butterfly both years, right? Where I think like 3rd grade is doing a slightly different trip, or 4th, one of the 2 grades is doing a slightly different trip in the spring this year than what they did last year. I don't quote me on which one, right? But and then they don't go on anything during the rest of the year. Now, maybe that's because of the age of the kids and probably definitely plays a role. It's probably really challenging as someone who chaperoned a 3rd grade trip earlier this year to manage that. But is that something, not necessarily that model, but that idea that it's pretty clear what happens at that age when it comes to field trips? Can we replicate something similar at the other schools? So.
All right, anything else on field trips?
I don't think so.
Any parent concerns, please feel free
Yeah,
to
just
reach out
reach
to
out.
the building administrators, and I'm sure they'd be delighted to answer your questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, giant spider running across the floor
Good
towards
luck.
you guys.
You can have it.
Saving you, coming right towards you, Peter.
Great.
Good luck.
June school board meetings.
All right, so we had talked about moving this to the 10th and the 30th. We booked a room. We did all that. I have a slight problem.
Oh, no. Come on, man, we've secured this.
I know, June 10th, which is the first one.
Yep, that's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday. I might need to work the state lacrosse semifinals games. I'm part of the lacrosse committee for NHIAA.
Okay.
And that is where they're slotting. It's dependent on final locations of venues and stuff like that. But being a committee member for that, that's one of the things that we have to do is to.
Is there an opportunity for you and I to connect and I can share the updates?
Certainly. Yeah.
I think there's ways around this.
Yeah, I think that, I trust Julie, I trust Sarah, that we can do all that. I can hop on a call really quick. It's low stakes when I'm just watching, make sure nothing screws up. I haven't had to actually do anything in the 4 or 5 years I've been doing it now, so. But yeah, I have that potential conflict on the 10th, so.
Okay. Well, thank you for the heads up there. So we are secured for,
We're secured
it's not
for
on your
the,
calendar yet,
we'll send the
June
invites.
10th and June
No,
30th.
no, no. I need a
telling you
formal,
right
I need
now.
a formal invite.
June 10th, June 30th are the school board meetings for the month of June. Great. And the next one would be July 8th.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Are you,
Anything
can,
else?
Can you actually have that sent out though? I like the formal one.
Now that it's official.
All right, I think that covers it from your reports tonight.
Yeah, the only thing I gotta add is the 25th. I mean, Peter came to the last event, he saw it firsthand. That I got to
The
wrestle for
wrestling thing.
control of the district.
It was awesome.
So,
Yeah. Were
so
you
hopefully I don't
bruised?
lose. I survived. Thankfully the Campbell High wrestling team came to my defense.
Right, they did rescue you.
Yeah, they rescued me. So We have the second part of our fundraiser on April 25th at Campbell, 6:30. Yes, I'm actually going to wrestle that night, so if anyone wants the comedy of watching me get beat up, feel free to come on April 25th and watch me get beat up and hopefully not lose. So, in
Are
the
you
end.
training for this?
I
or-
am training for this, yes.
Oh, yes, I saw the video.
We've seen the videos out there on social media. It's a good time. We raised actually a lot of money, like at the last event that we made.
We
So
were raising money for mats, right?
we for 3 different components. So the wrestling mats
Yeah.
for the wrestling team. Student council did concessions that night, just a general for them. And then the class of 2027 did a 50-50 raffle. So
cool. Awesome.
it was a really good experience. We're hoping to have more people because it generates more money for us if people can come. And again, you get to watch me get beat up. So
I would expect that you'll be in full wrestling attire.
we have some attire we are working on. I don't know if you'll see me in full Speedo. I'm a little not in the same shape I used to be in my younger days, but we will have some Campbell-inspired gear for
There
me
we
to
go.
wear. So
There we go. Well, thank you for all you're doing on that front.
it's an experience.
All right, Ms. Darling, what do we have for business operations tonight?
All right. So we are still working through, as I said, for the month of April, we're really working through encumbrances, trying to hone in on what we're going to have for fund balance, predicting out as best we can. So for this month, we're really going through, in particular, employee salaries and benefits are, obviously the biggest part of our budget and usually where the biggest part of the underspend would be lying. So we will be taking a look at that as well as, as we're changing seasons. Certainly facilities and grounds have been very busy getting fields ready and whatnot, so a lot of extra expenses there. So I just want to make sure that we're good with encumbering everything throughout the end of the year so that we have a really good handle on that balance. For the May meetings, I will have that for you. With regard to, I don't have any transfers right now for you. With regard to solar, I did reach out to Kay to follow up on some of the questions that we had. There was additional solar production information that we are seeking from her. I spoke with her today and she did have, she just received the information, so she wanted to review that before sharing that out with us. So once I have that, I'll go ahead and share that out with the board. And I also had followed up with her on a couple of other things. We're still looking for confirmation on the dates that they'll be working to do the site work over at LMS during April break. So I'm just looking for confirmation on which days they'll be there. She is waiting to hear back from KW Management to coordinate that. She's also anticipating getting a more solid ship date from Toshiba by the end of the week. So I will follow up with all of those things and see where we're at. I've also requested, photos of production, so I'm going to follow up with her as
Sure
well.
she'd love that
But
request.
just to stay on target with all of that.
Could she send us a picture of the factory that it actually?
Well, yeah,
is?
right,
I mean, with AI now, she can send
Exactly.
that's true. Look, it's no knock
wanna see where
on
we're
the
at.
efforts of the administration, but it's a lot of continue to wait, right?
Correct.
And that's the frustration.
And then
I'd say the only benefit, just for those watching again, right, and as a refresher, is the clock doesn't start to tick for us as a district in regard to our 20-year kind of payment cycles, or the payment cycles that we have for that fixed price buyout at year 7. That clock doesn't start on year 1 until this work is all complete and signed off on, right? And so there is a benefit to the district while this has been taking a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, it is a set amount of money we are paying for the
It
energy
is.
over at the middle school, and we are making out on that. Like, we are saving money on that,
yes, we are.
but the annoyance is incredible. So
I guess we did see, I was noticing this at the forum last night when we were looking at the energy usage for the schools. Like, we definitely are at least seeing a benefit of some of the stuff that was done at that school. I guess the other benefit, based off of the next agenda item, is that a little more time will help us determine whether they're going to pull in with those batteries and they're going to fall into a sinkhole, or whether they'll
So
be
let's
able
shift
get
to
them
the LMS
back
parking lot. Is the failure fixed at this point?
Yes, I mean, it's the temporary fix is
Correct.
what we did, so yes, so it is now safe, at that point. We haven't addressed anything underneath as far as the drainage goes. But we do, the update that we do have is that we have, a company that's going to be able to do, a survey of the parking lot to let us know exactly what does need to get addressed, and also, give us a design for ADA compliance to make sure that we're up to code with that when we redo the parking lot. Obviously, if there's any opportunity for us to increase the number of spaces, that's something that, you know, we could look into as well, that I'm sure that all of that information will be provided as a part of the assessment. And that assessment, we did sign off on with your approval from the last meeting. So we're gonna hopefully get that scheduled. I think we'll be able to get that scheduled fairly soon. And then, once we have that, you know, as a part of that assessment, we'll have the, plans that we'll be able to give, to Continental so that they can give us an appropriate quote on if they are paving the exact same area, how, you know, what that's gonna look like.
I mean, the key here is turnaround time at this point in the year,
Correct.
so.
I think the, you know, the civil engineers we're working with understand the timeline that we are under. So, they're optimistic on getting the work done ahead of what they've laid out in their proposal. So we appreciate that. Continental is aware of our timeline and, you know, appreciative of that too, that they're aware. Circle back, who was it, DMB paving?
I was gonna say DLB paving, I do
Yeah.
wanna,
Yeah, yes.
absolutely want to thank them. They, DLB paving is who came out and did the repair on the sinkhole, and they did not charge us, which was extremely generous.
Dana's a great guy.
And we are very, grateful for that. That was wonderful.
Thank you very much to DLB. That's very much appreciated.
Just a quick question on this. So they're gonna be doing a partial condition survey. Is there any, I'm assuming that was probably a discussion that you guys had with them. Is there anything that we are looking at coming up with GMS, that would require us or would benefit from us doing a full survey? Or, you know, did they at least say that if they did a partial condition survey and we needed to do something else, they'd be able to come out and complete the rest of the survey?
So, help me understand your question.
So like, I'm scanning through, I'll be honest with you, I didn't look at this ahead of time, so I'm just kind of scanning through it right now. So it looks like they're gonna be surveying essentially the circle and then the front parking lot. With respect to like what we may be trying to do in terms of like reconfiguration or anything like that, is that encompassing enough of an area of a survey, or do they need to go further? Because they're only doing a partial condition survey, which means that they're not doing a full site survey. They're not surveying the whole parcel, which the whole parcel is much larger, so that's more economical both in time and cost. So I'm just curious, is there anything that we're contemplating doing that would require a survey that's beyond this scope?
I don't think so, but let me follow up a little bit more, making
Okay.
sure that I'm understanding fully, because this is a little out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
We asked them to focus on that parking lot, right? We want that parking lot.
Right.
And we'll eventually pay, well, part of this will be quoting
Around
the
the back
pave
of the building.
around the back, right? Like, but there's not work that necessarily has to be done for that, it's just a repave. Is to address all the issues in the LMS parking lot, ADA compliant, and the stuff underneath, so we don't have to re-tear it up, right? We didn't talk at all about GMS or anything connected to GMS or anything related to that?
That's
Okay.
that's not what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking in terms of like, I don't know what the ultimate reconfiguration, like when we're trying to make this ADA compliant, what the ultimate reconfiguration would entail. Or, you know, anything related to like the fields or anything like that. My thought is just like, if there's anything else that needs to be done, if we're doing
Yeah.
a survey.
No, I think we're
Is it-
focused on just the parking lot, right? Like,
Right.
and not looking at the field yet or anything beyond that because of the immediate need we need in
Yeah.
that parking lot,
Yeah.
so.
Well,
and the
just in
timeline.
terms of, my
Right.
only question is just in terms of, they're coming out to do a survey. So like, is it,
We can ask, right?
We can,
Yeah,
sure.
and see if,
I am told, because one of the residents who, for this firm, lives in town and is tuned in tonight, that the engineers were out today walking the property,
excellent.
so.
yeah.
I would think if they're gonna make it ADA compliant, there's gonna have to be additional spaces created somewhere.
It's really just regrading, I think, the top part of
Yeah,
the parking lot.
they've talked about, again, don't quote me on this, this is out of my comfort zone, but you're going up to the edge of the building, like where, and like even that sidewalk that's kind of right in front of where the buses drop off and stuff like that, that all has to be kind of lifted to be the ADA, but you can do that section ADA compliant, that's what needs to be, and then like lower levels, right? So like not the entire thing has to be raised or lowered.
Right.
So that's the work that they're doing. I don't know if that was addressing your
Yeah,
question.
well, I just would think they'd gotta put spots someplace else.
Well,
If they're gonna
if
put stuff at the top, on that top plateau, I would think there's gonna be spaces.
Well, let's
along
be
that.
clear on ADA compliance, right, because there are parking spaces behind the school that have easy access into the building.
Yeah.
Right, that you could figure out how to make that work for ADA compliance as well.
Yeah, so they're gonna look at it and
Yeah, I think
the
they
best
can, I think that they can add on to it.
Continental guy was like, "This is what you should do," Zoop, 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 zoop. And it sounded wonderful. He's like, "But you need someone to design it." I was like, "We're on it." Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just
That's phenomenal.
circling back to DLB for a moment, right? And again, super appreciative to DLB for their prompt assistance with that. Per policy, do we need to accept that work as a donation?
That's,
Well, they quoted us at $0, so
that is true.
I guess maybe maybe we should just
We
for
probably should.
That's probably.
Yeah,
Like,
we
whatever.
probably should, and I'd like to ask if you could send just a thank you note on behalf of the board.
of course.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Given that we
So-
know that it was, given that we know that, should we just accept that now?
Yeah, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the gift of the repair to the LMS parking lot from DLB paving.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Plansky, second by Mr. Shoemaker. Additional discussion on this one? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
3-0.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. I'll send that thank you. The next thing I wanted to talk about was technology pricing, just to kind of have it on your radar. Brendan Collins, our IT director, has been really wonderful in being responsive to what everyone, is really dealing with technology equipment increases, and just trying to be as proactive and creative as possible with, thinking about buying for next year and how that's going to look. So right now, with Chromebooks in particular, that's one item that is just astronomical in prices. And so he's keeping an eye on that and doing what he can to basically shore up as many Chromebooks as we possibly can at a certain price, because what's happening is you're getting, what used to be a 30-day quote is now like a 5-day quote. If you're not able to lock in at that time, then you lose that price. There are some vendors, I think, that are even, until that item has shipped, even if you've signed off on it, if that price goes up, you're going to have to pay the increase. So Brendan's been doing a really great job of, working with the vendors that we have and trying to get those prices to a good point, and also, even being creative and purchasing things. We're looking at doing like a lease that would just have a single payment. So it would still be within one budget year, but you can actually lock in your prices that way. So we're just being creative with
What is
that.
the price of a Chromebook right now?
So right now, the most recent pricing is he got a price of $333 per Chromebook, whereas just in March of this year was $243. So I mean, just in a month's time, it's gone up $100 per piece.
How many Chromebooks would we typically purchase in a given year?
That's
90-ish per,
We buy
90
nine.
for grade 5, 90-ish, I think it's 93 technically in this budget, for 5 and 9,
And
because
9,
it's the
that's
two
right.
new incoming grades.
And so when you buy the Chromebook, you have the
Cycle them every
Chromebook
year
itself,
for-
and then you have
so
the
they have it for 4
license, and
years.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah. But the licenses are not going up, so one of the things he's, considering is, I think on our end of year list, he's put some items on there for us to consider. And one of them would be the licenses, if he could figure out the other, paying for the actual equipment beforehand, then that we could perhaps free up some money by purchasing the licenses ahead of time. So just something to kind of keep in mind as we're moving towards end of year expenses, and just to know that is
That's a
something that's
budget
on our
item.
radar.
And we have those,
They're in the budget.
and I feel like, I'd have to go back and look, I'm going off the top of my head, right? But I feel like we budget 3 something for each of these Chromebooks.
We did not budget,
Includes the license.
we were closer to the 200 for something for the actual device, and then the license on top of it is an additional 31 for a device. So we budgeted, I think, like 25,000 for like 93, 95 Chromebooks. So doing that math backwards, at these prices, it would be higher than what we budgeted for. So we either got.
We shouldn't be
slightly-
asking for the full encumbrance. We should be using what's budgeted and then asking for the difference.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what he's thinking about doing.
Right.
So that, but he wants to lock in some of these prices now because at the rate they're increasing so quickly.
Okay. More to come.
Yes.
Here it is.
And then, yes, end of year expenditures, we're just continuing to add to that list, getting quotes. But certainly if there's anything for consideration that anyone on the board is thinking about that's not on there, please let us know. We're happy to look into that.
Okay, thank you. And that's it?
it.
That's it, okay. Appreciate the update as always. We do not have Dr. Taylor with us tonight, but is there a curriculum update that you'd
We
like to share?
don't. She had a family commitment that came up that took her attention away from us this evening.
Sure,
So
okay.
I know they were meeting, the curriculum committee was meeting today, but I don't know the results of that conversation. She did want me to highlight, though, the unified basketball trip that happened last Friday. Maybe Jen can jump in here a little bit over at Pinkerton Academy. And because Dr. Taylor got the pleasure of chaperoning that with the team over there. Yeah.
We were invited by the Special Olympics group. They have an event at Pinkerton every year. So I don't know exactly how many schools went, but our unified basketball team and then some additional students and the mentor students went on a field trip. They spent the day competing in various events and came in, I think, second place overall.
Yep. Second overall.
So
Oh, that's great.
they did phenomenal, and like I said, I know there were a lot of schools there. That's why they have it at Pinkerton.
Great, yeah,
Their gym is,
huge.
Massive.
so their first gym. I think they have.
Right,
a
they have
second.
two.
They've got a
They
couple,
probably
yeah.
have a third. But anyway, so yeah.
It's like
So
London.
it was really great. The kids came back. They were excited, and it was a nice time.
The only other thing I want to add for CIA is it is the start of assessment season for us. SAT was today. We talked about it earlier today. After break, the other two schools will start jumping in with their assessment. AP testing is when we return from break as well. High school has their science SAS assessment next week, right?
Yeah.
Next Tuesday. Do you want to tell the incentive you have for them or not quite yet?
I sent out a message.
All right, they might as well say it. Send out a message.
So, I know that Campbell has had midterm and final exams in the past.
The way
going
past.
back. And then they've gone away, and then so now we have them again. And I might have stolen this from another school, and I'm not gonna say which, but I asked.
I'll say it's Bedford. It's okay.
I asked Dr.
It's not
Taylor.
stealing, it's using information readily
You know,
available.
it was
That's a great way to put it.
I asked Dr. Taylor and Superintendent O'Connell if we could adopt it. So any student who scores in the proficient or above proficient range on the science assessment will not have to take their final exam in their science class. And the reason being is if they've
Amazing.
proven that they're proficient on
Why do it
this
twice?
assessment,
Right.
what then?
That
clearly-
is
Genius.
I
phenomenal.
like it.
So I remembered our conversation we'd had a while back about trying to incentivize.
Yeah.
Do it well once, you don't do it twice.
I don't love incentives, so but I really like this one because it makes sense at least to get the kids to take it seriously. I think they will. I think we'll see some improvement. SATs today were great. The kids were awesome. I think they really bought into it. They had some time this morning to just kind of decompress and grab some breakfast if they wanted to. Instead of just like getting to school and going right into the test. I think it's nice when they can kind of get the jitters out a little,
Ease
talk
into the
amongst
day a
each
little bit.
other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it went really, really well. We had a good amount of students take it, which was also great. And a few that will have to do the makeup, but
Okay.
it's good.
And everybody has to take the SAT at the high school, right?
Correct. You can
Yes.
opt out, but
Yes, they can opt out. So technically there's an opt out, but they have they have to complete a form. So same with SAS. We
When,
don't want that. We want everyone to take
remind me, when do we see results of this testing?
July for SATs
Yep.
usually.
Okay.
But the SAS is pretty quick. The science SAS. I don't know, when do you usually,
You
In
can,
a
the
while,
teachers can get the results online almost immediately. I think the portal for the parents
Like a
doesn't
month?
open until end of June-ish.
All right.
But
We
they
get the
want
results.
they want all the windows across the state to close so that you can have that comparative analysis and that comparative data as it comes out.
Got it, thank you. Okay.
So we'll be able
Hopefully
to
everyone
see.
can hear Principal Mitchison and Principal
There's a
Brantham in the
big
back. I don't know if that thing's on or works, by the way, but maybe it does.
It works.
Let's hope. Okay,
Our voices both carry pretty.
we're going with it, okay, all right. Excellent, thank you very much. All right, we have the public minutes from April 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Shoemaker, second by Mr. Plansky. Additional discussion on the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That carries 3-0. We have new business, and who is going to be representing FIC for an update tonight?
I guess me.
By default.
By default. And we got to push this because we were hoping to appoint people to the FIC, and I've got zero interest so far.
Yeah.
So.
This is what happened years ago.
Yeah. So if people, we can push it for another meeting. It's okay. Like if I'll make another stance today. I've had it in my message a couple times. We've been trying to get it out in different avenues and stuff like that. I know Dan's been posting it online as well.
Yep.
On behalf of FIC. But if you have interest in being a part of the FIC, we have 3 open seats, the way that we're cycling it. All you gotta do is shoot me an email and let me know that you're interested. If you have questions, reach out, you give me a call, email me, I can talk you through what the responsibilities are, frequency of meetings, what the role looks like. We've done some great work with FIC, so I would like to keep that momentum. It's going to be important. They're gonna have a voice in the project, in the process. As we bring the project forward next fall, like we're bringing that to the FIC in September for their feedback before bringing the final version to the boards
Yeah.
and the budget committee. So if you have an interest, but specifically at this point, GMS, that's like a huge focus of the FIC, the GMS project, and you have interest, please shoot me an email that you are interested, and I'll keep this on the agenda for next meeting, and hopefully we have some interest and can
And just
appoint
to
some
make
people.
sure everyone's aligned, FIC is our Facilities Improvement
Yes.
Committee, which is a
Thank you.
subcommittee of the school board that has been absolutely instrumental in helping us with the guidance and direction of how to solve the infrastructure issues at Griffin Memorial School, notably, right? It's for the district, but notably the focus has been on Griffin Memorial. And as the superintendent mentioned, this committee is very critical over the next year, right? As we chart the course to March of '27, where we are optimistic about putting a warrant article on the ballot for voters, right? We rely upon the Facility Improvement Committee's guidance and help informing the board of recommendations for consideration. So 3 seats. If you're interested, please email the superintendent, and the superintendent can fill you in on some of the details behind it. Got it?
That's where we're at.
Policies. We have no
the-
first read and a few second reads.
Yeah, these are all the same ones from last time, second read. If you even have
Has the
any
board
questions.
had a chance to, once again, scan through the policies? Any recommended updates or changes?
No.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve policy ACE, procedural safeguards, non-discrimination on the basis of disability. Policy ACN, which is the accommodation of nursing mothers. Policy BEC, which is non-public sessions. Policy EB, which is workplace safety program and joint loss. And policy EBB, which is school safety.
Second.
There was a motion. Thank you for the second.
Trying to give Peter an opportunity.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. Shoemaker. Additional discussion on those policies for second read?
No, sir.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, that carries 3-0. We have old business tonight, enrollment. How are we tracking for kindergarten?
Not as high as I want. We did gain 1, so we gained 1. So we're at 50. Oh no, look at that, 59. We gained a 2 today. We must have, because I last talked to Joyce yesterday. So
59.
up to 59. So maybe we're getting some momentum there because that's 3 since the last meeting. So
Okay, I
We've
mean, so
been-
that's now the number that we need staffing for 4th, I believe.
I believe that's what Dan told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the trigger point for 4 in kindergarten, but
Yep.
they're lower per policy.
They're smaller classes.
smaller
So
Yeah, the small class.
Yeah.
hopefully we'll continue to get enrollment, get registrations here. as kind of time goes, and that number can keep going. We've been pushing, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, basketball court.
As follow from last meeting, I know the board wanted to think. I know I got a couple of questions from you guys about it. If one was around putting advertising on the playing surface around center court, and not if we could limit it to just the sidelines or anything like that. We have some flexibility in what we can do. It would change like how much you're charging people and stuff like that, but like it seems like you can work with the company to like put the stuff where you want it, right? Like they have that flexibility, because it is just ultimately, it's a high quality sticker, but it's a sticker, right? Like that.
But it's our decision, it's our
It's our,
court.
it's our court, yeah. But it changes like what you're going out to the people who are advertising, instead of being at center court, which is obviously a lot more visible. Like it just changes the dynamic, which is fine. That's what it is. I was talking with Ms. Mitchinson about it earlier today. Some more, talking to Tony about it, and we don't want to pressure anyone into doing this. We're just trying to get creative, right? Like, and we think this is an avenue that schools are going to start looking at, not just us, but others. Like, how can you generate revenue, right? Like, and these are ways to generate revenue. So we don't necessarily have to rush to this. If we want to take our time, we can take our time and see what others are doing as well. I know Tony's been asking around, see if other people are thinking about it too. I think it's one of those where everyone's waiting for who's going to be first.
Yeah,
Yeah, you shouldn't be telling other people about decent ideas.
Right.
we should be getting that revenue first.
There's only so many places that you
He's pretty confident he has his sponsors lined up. He doesn't want to publicly say that in case this doesn't work out, but like he's pretty, and he's told me who, and yeah, I think he's got them lined up pretty good. So, so ultimately, we do need to decide, because if we're going to do the work in the summer, we gotta do it. We gotta.
So
get
a couple
stuff
things on this, right?
Yeah.
I know I sent you an email with some thoughts and all this
Yeah.
jazz, right? So it's great that we're talking about CHS. The focus on courts over the past several years has always been on LMS,
Right,
right?
I wrote that
So
down
the
too, so-
question is why are we focused on CHS and not LMS, which I'm told still needs a complete replacement?
Yeah, and I don't have a great answer for that. Not because I don't have a great answer, but I just don't have a great answer. I think, we get high schools like focused sometimes, and thinking that's where we get the largest crowds and the vast and that type of use where we're doing it. So that was where the focus began, was on the high school court, right? I think there's nothing that stops us from looking at doing this at the middle school as well. It's not as much surface, obviously, so it's a different type of setup, but it's something Tony's open to looking at for the middle school as well.
But that should be the priority. It shouldn't be Campbell right now.
Yeah.
Right, in my opinion, right? If that floor is truly in need of replacement as opposed to just a resurface, like that should be the focus of where we're like this advertising could really benefit us.
Yeah.
Right. Just back on the center court, and one of the thoughts that I shared was, it feels like selling the center court. I get it, but it feels like selling our soul to me, right? I've talked to a lot of people on this topic, and like I do think it should remain as Campbell in that center court, because that's the core of our school.
Yeah.
It's the core of our school. When you're having pep rallies and everything else, that's Campbell, right? It just feels like we're giving up a piece of Litchfield by doing that to me.
Yeah.
Right. I like the idea of advertising. I love the idea of fresh thinking and bringing in new sources of revenue. Just so like on different placements of the court.
So I've had similar conversations with people, and they're like, great idea. I didn't talk to people about the center court, because I had saw the picture, and it was gonna be sort of around the baseline and on it.
The details of that contract, the
Yeah.
first one says center court.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
So I would agree with Andrew. I wouldn't want that, the Cougar to be gone, or whatever we have in there for a logo. But same thing, LMS. I remember a couple years ago, we talked about LMS needing a thing. Did it even go on was it a warrant article? We couldn't get the money?
No, we rolled it into, it was actually on the capital improvement plan, but
Oh,
never,
okay.
yeah, never.
Ne-
got
But never happened. So,
forward.
and correct me if I'm wrong, there's money in this year's budget to do work on the CHS floor, is there not? Like
It's the
30
typical yearly
Resurface.
research, like the
them.
re-waxing and
Re-waxing,
redoing
yeah.
all of that. Yeah,
So, do we have an idea how much that is?
it's like $4,000, I think, or
It's
something.
not, it's not big
Yeah.
much.
No, it's it's what you just do every year. I'm assuming the same thing's in for the LMS budget.
Yes, correct.
Too, so.
Yeah. and
But I
sort of
know in the
schedule.
past, there was fear of even buffing the LMS for
Well, the
fear of
LMS
it
floor has
going-
gouges in it.
Yeah, it's,
Like,
I mean, we,
I did ask
Like the
Dave to
Boston
price out, like, what are those pieces, I think there's some edges near the door, like, near one of the side door, that needed to be replaced, so I did ask him to get, an estimate for that, and then, to refinish if we need to, just so we have an idea.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we can take a step back from this and look at both cores concurrently with more of an eye on LMS to see what we can figure out.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to do it, it should be, this is a good thing for the district,
Yep.
not for a building.
Yep.
Right, and if there's a way to get advertising at both courts as a way to offset some of the costs for refinishing, I think that's a great idea and a great win. Right, and I'm open to banners and all that stuff, right? I'm also, for CHS specifically, I'd hate to put the money in, because I know we're talking potentially about, socially, we were talking about having that, gym repainted,
I would love to repaint the.
right? But I'd like to do that before you do anything with the court,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
right? You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
splash.
Okay, so we can take a slight step back. I want to keep this idea out there. Obviously, timing and sense of like this is the type of work that happens over summers, right? But I'm glad we've had this discussion. I have a feeling we'll be back here next year, maybe with a slightly altered.
Can we focus on painting the gym this summer?
We can make that more of a priority, yeah. We'll map up,
A fresh,
we were successful with the painting last year.
fresh plan for that? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
I know what I would like to see, but I don't know, that's the best idea, so.
I would like to hear from the principal of the building.
I probably trust Jen's view of this type of stuff versus mine.
I don't know, I made Brian actually pick the color. I narrowed it down to 3 and was like, pick one. So that's how, it was a lot of pressure.
For the
to put on me.
hallways?
It was like my
Well,
first
then,
task, hey, we gotta paint this whole
y'all
building.
can work together
Yeah.
and figure out something.
Yeah, so, but I agree, I think the gym needs some TLC, just like a glow up it needs before
Yeah.
thinking of like.
I mean, it's 25 years. That's a
Yeah.
25-year-old paint job at this
And
point,
I do
right? It needs
know,
fresh.
that the, custodial and maintenance staff are gonna do some more painting at the high school over April break. I know they're gonna focus on getting at least up to some of the stairwells, cause they stopped,
Yeah,
just with the
right,
first
okay.
floor, so now they're
That
gonna,
was enough work at the time.
start to go up, so, it'll look really nice, I think, too, once the upstairs, everything's painted.
Great. All right, so we'll continue just socially talking about the basketball courts, but would love the idea of having LMS included in whatever those decisions are.
If anyone wants to advertise, I'm willing to wear anything, just like,
Anything?
well,
Let's not
school
get carried
program,
away
but
here.
like,
Can we put it on a
See how there's that
Speedo?
wrestling,
some logos, yeah.
Speedo.
right on the butt. Place your ad here.
Yeah. I'm down.
All right.
All right, GMS.
Yeah, so I was out of town, right, so I was not able to attend the community forum, but
Oh,
very
it was,
interested in.
there's more people in this room right now than there was there.
Yeah.
last night.
It was low attended, which we kind of expected because we weren't presenting new information. People aren't in this mindset right now. It's still important for us to do it. And I think one of the huge benefits is we recorded last night. So we were able to get all that information that we've done up to this point recorded, which we will we'll put out there everywhere, once we get the recording back from John and stuff like that. So because that was one of the things we heard when we were, for example, going to the 55 plus communities in February there. He's like, hey, can you record some of these community forums so we can watch it at our leisure? We may not be able to get there in the moment. So it was valuable in that aspect that we were able to get that recording accomplished. Wasn't highly attended, but that's okay. We're going to have another one on Monday, May 18th. We'll keep grinding at it and keep trying to, as much as possible, promote the project so people are aware of what's going on. So.
I think what's going to be really, really important is getting numbers out and getting project, details of what it's going to look like for the project. I think once that information gets out, people start to pay attention again. No one's really inclined to come hear us say what we had to say last time. I think it's great that we got it recorded, but
Right, I think it's important.
but until we have stuff that people feel passionate about, which is the numbers and or what it's going to mean for their lives, it's going to be hard to get people out there.
Yep, okay. Well, thank you for having the community forum. When is the next
Monday, May 18th.
Monday,
Do a
May
bunch of
18th.
rollout for that.
Okay.
The week said.
Does it make sense to delay that?
I think we run out of time. Like, one of the reasons why it's a Monday is because, like, almost every other night it has stuff, right? Like, when you start talking about concerts, you roll into June, there's there's awards nights at the schools, there's
I mean,
promotion.
do we wait until
dances.
September?
Well, I think we're gonna do one in the fall too. Like, this isn't it for community forums. Like, we're gonna do these two now and then do at least one, maybe multiple in the fall as well.
I
as we
think,
do information.
I think, let's see what the proposed content is gonna be in the next couple of weeks, because I don't disagree with you, like, if we're gonna, particularly be paying for consultants to be there.
Right.
like, If we can't, if there's not more.
Yeah, if we're just regurgitating old information, that's probably not
Yeah.
worth it.
But let's see what they're working pretty hard on this right now, so let's see what they have.
That's what I'm
coming up.
saying, right? If
Yeah.
there's, if, this is a cost to the district for these individuals to be here, it is, right? And I want to make sure it's valuable to the taxpayers in the community to have their questions answered. And if there was low turnout, while great that it's recorded, that's unfortunate, right?
Right.
And I just want to make sure we're getting bang for the buck. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, as we start the new school year and get closer to that 6-month mark of March, if then it makes sense
Yeah.
to start.
But now, if they've worked through, substantial things about, that to update, I mean, certainly.
People are gonna forget though between May and September,
True, but I think that one thing that would be one thing that we do need to work out again is like there's going to be some sharpening of the pencil now to say, okay, like what can we do to really fine tune the costs on this, and also like there was even some mention about maybe not having to use the portables for staging and other plans on that stuff, and
Right.
that may have an impact where we may want to solicit feedback sooner. So again, I think it's just I want to know where we're at with like new information at
Yeah.
that point to make a
'Cause I think that at some point, to your point, we're gonna do some trimming.
right. So.
And until people hear a number that is a real, not just it's got some detail behind it.
It would be nice to have optionality, right? I don't know if that's a possibility, but hey, if we're all going with 1B, right? But within 1B, there's some options for construction materials, design, layout, whatever it might be that influences cost. It would be great to understand that.
Yeah.
And that's what they're really they're digging into at the current moment, I think.
Cool. Okay.
All right. So
Videos.
So we met with Story First, and Eric, who does the Story First stuff, and he is, a recommendation for the Hollis project most recently at their elementary school, where they've did some nice video work, and some other projects we learned talking through them of building projects across New Hampshire and New England as well. So me and Dan met with him last week, and we were just like, throw us some outlines of what this could look like. Like if we want to do some videos about the project, what did you do with Hollis? Like if we were to replicate that, different ideas. So what you're seeing is a proposal. This isn't necessarily what we're doing, right? He gave us some ideas and
Yeah,
options, and we're
okay.
going to fine tune it if this is something the board wants us to pursue. So, like he presented 3 options here. Again, we can go in there and take out pieces and do this or do anything kind of connected to that. He's open to whatever, but he wanted to get some ideas out there. So I want to bring it to the board. Is this something? It's not cheap, as you can tell. It's high quality, as we saw the videos and stuff like that, and he showed us some. Is this something that the board wants us to continue to pursue and iron out some sort of plan that is feasible fiscally for us, but also effective in what we're trying to deliver?
Thank you for running with it and getting
Yeah.
some meeting with Eric and
Yep.
getting some numbers behind this. Interested in the board's thoughts.
I unequivocally believe that this is imperative for us. I can tell you that when Andrew sent me this video, it like knocked my socks off. And having gone through the process of my background with this project was I was pulled in as a community member to try to help with this aspect of it, right? And it was nearly impossible to try to facilitate. And that was at a point that we had a public relations person that was supposed to be sort of spearheading things, but it was kind of, whatever. So, I have intimate knowledge about what goes into this. And then beyond that, once I was on the board, I did try to bring in a lesser expensive film option And, you know, Dan Mitchell, like, God bless him, like, really did a lot of work on that one. But, like, again, like, what we saw is, I'm a lawyer, he's a principal of a school, like, we are not storytellers. We are not people that can produce information that is going to be packaged in a way that really can help the taxpayer understand, like, this is what you have in front of you, and this is why this is important. And I think it's just absolutely imperative for the next bond vote, because if we can't get the proper information conveyed, it's going to make it that much harder to get this passed. And if we don't get this passed, it's going to be an eternity of us doing the same thing. So,
Definition of insanity, right?
so.
I like the idea. I think it's a little premature. I think we would rather have similar, more numbers, more detail behind it than pushing this out, but in June.
No, this is not, I don't think this is a June thing.
Well, one of the things we
Timing
just
is in
talked about different
It's in
things,
there.
right?
It's June.
Is to do a initial video by the end of June that we would have available for us like all summer, right? Stagnant as people would come
It's too
to it.
early.
I think
That might be the case. We were just batting around ideas.
I
right?
think
Like,
that
this is
I
where
think
this
that
came
where we need to be is we need to be at a fully developed, like, here's the costs, here's the, you know, we need to be able to talk through the logistics of, like, this is how it's going to impact, like,
Yeah.
the timing and stuff like that. I mean, we need to know a little bit more about the bond stuff for our needs. But I think once we have that, it's going to be like,
think
we
this-
need to get it out.
And I think timing wise, if the board decides to move forward with something like this, timing wise, for me, it's more aligned with like when deliberative would be, right? And then you have a month to get this circulated out into the community.
Yeah.
I might be interested in a little bit sooner than that, only because what I don't want to run into is we find that we push something out and then all of a sudden everyone starts talking. Like, I would like to have time to, like, really truly field questions and inquiries. So, I mean, I would think if we were able to know by
Well,
like
we're gonna
fall.
we should have bonds. What we've asked is that the bond information is kind of, we have that structure going forward into the budget cycle.
Right, in
So
October.
in-
Should have
By
that.
October.
In
Yeah.
October, November, we should have that
Yeah.
information where we're already starting to socialize this with the budget committee.
So I think
I would think
think-
September, early October for budget season, I guess.
So one of the ideas, this is all great, like I pushed what did a June timeline look like, right, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
It's something I was thinking, you do a video
Sure,
now.
you can just slide it.
Yeah. Eric was like, that's quick. I was like, well, just hear me out, play it, what would that look like? So like you do something in the spring, but one of the things we were batting around, it's not necessarily represented this year, is quick like FAQ videos, right? Like about specific things related to the project at some point, right? Like I have a question about portable, like something about portables, right? Or HVAC or whatever, where it's just a quick hitter video of like, this is the question, this is the answer to it, right? You know, those type of things. But I think the bigger thing is to tell a story on why this project is needed and stuff.
Yeah.
And he initially was like, when we first sat down, he was thinking the fall as well. And when I brought up like, well, what would it look like this spring? Just out of curiosity. He's like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. And this is where he kind of ran.
I
with
think
it.
cost wise, I think what you're talking about is more than what he's quoting us. I mean, I think that what he's
Right,
quoting
yep.
us is Hollis,
Yep.
is what Hollis did. And I think that what they did was absolutely phenomenal. And I think that is, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that what you're saying would be wonderful. Like that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
But
I think the Hollis was option one here, like of these three options right here. So
I guess my other thought is devil's advocate, right? Is it necessary? Given,
Oh my God,
well,
it's so
but
necessary.
all the publicity behind it, right? The failed vote 2 years ago, right? We've been talking about needing to address GMS now for over a decade, right? The town knows that GMS is an issue. Like everyone gets that.
But think back to that video we watched though. It wasn't just the.
I was impressed by it
I know
too.
you were.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a, hey, we know we need to do something. It really pulled everything together, and it really helped illustrate like, here's why what we're doing now really matters and why you really need to pay attention to it. Because otherwise will just keep saying, look, I know it needs something, but this isn't it. Like, you're saying it's whatever, $30 million. Like, that's not it. That's not the number. It's like, look.
Did you consider a new build?
Right. I really, truly, like, I can tell you, I feel so strongly that the having something that ties it together for everyone, that we can really get in front of everyone in a video is at that length is the right way to do it, because people are going to be able to watch it. They're going to be able to, understand it. It made everything make sense, in my opinion.
Well, I'd like then to just make sure that we're being inclusive, and we had Mr. Peoples and Mr. DeWitt's thoughts here as well.
Yeah.
before any decision.
Well, we're not in a place where we need it.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you guys getting this information, though.
Yep.
And I appreciate you sending it to
Yeah.
us, because honestly, this is what I was like, how do we find this?
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, can you forward that out to the rest of the group, the video?
I didn't. Yes, I can, but I'm surprised I didn't.
I
Okay.
don't remember seeing it.
I can definitely
He
do
emailed
that.
it, but it was in the middle of a work day, so you probably were doing something
Yeah,
else.
sorry. Yeah, definitely forward to. Great, okay. So let's add this to the next agenda, right, and make sure when we have the full board that we can talk about it. Sounds good.
It may make sense to recirculate, because I don't think Ray was on the board at the time that you circulated that, was he?
I'll just send it to everybody.
Cool.
It'll be added to correspondence next time too.
All right, great. So now we're shifting into Harriman pre-bond.
Yeah, so this is just the amended contract that Harriman sent us, because they're obviously doing more work. So I think the important what I want, the big black line there is like pre-bond work, post-bond work, right? So like if this doesn't pass, we're not paying all 6 phases of this out, right? So like obviously, it's a lot of money if the project passes, but it's based upon the total cost of the project. We were hoping to get a project under 20 million before, which is where the initial prices came in. Now that we're looking at a project in the 30s, then potentially in the 30s, it's gonna increase, the cost of their services and stuff, so. So we
So-
do need to sign this if we're gonna continue to work with them.
Right, but also need to revisit the.
So their fee is based upon a $29.15 million number,
For construction, yes.
Construction, right, not including soft costs.
not including soft costs. That's far more than I believe we even spoke about in their rough numbers from the fall.
When we were interviewing, going through the bid process with everybody, we were hoping for a project that started with a 1.
Yes, of
So
course.
everyone was bidding on, their prices and costs were all based upon that assumption.
I don't have the Plan 1B numbers behind me, but
Yeah.
this just seems
Oh,
higher
you're
than
saying
what that
that
was.
you don't think Plan 1B was at.
Correct.
It was, I feel
Oh.
like it was closer to 28.
It was, but they're anticipating the increase in cost now, because that was based upon if we had went to vote in March of 26.
Right.
Now we're going to March of 27, so it's
That makes sense.
3% increase, say, roughly, from what that cost is gonna be, if that makes sense.
Does, I don't like it.
None of us likes it.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to these numbers that are now truly with a 3,
Uh-huh.
Which is why we really want to get to
I'm gonna-
more solid pricing.
I
and see what we can-
get it, right? My question is, at what point do we consider that being astronomical and saying, what's a new cost, what's a new school cost again?
I mean, I wasn't gonna be the one to say it, but
I mean, again, it's, you know what it is behind this, and I get it, the decisions of the FIC, the board, renovation, right? That's what we move forward with, I get it, right? But these costs are now, like, it's a bit of a sticker shock at the moment, right? Because it's higher than what I was even expecting. And if there's an opportunity to have a build, on the LMS land that we already scoped, and it comes in at a similar cost. It's LMS land, actually.
oh, the Almas like
Right.
Baseball field.
Touche.
trying to
Touche.
say it right,
Look at that.
right? But if there's an opportunity to come in at or near this price point, and I'm not disrupting kids for 2 years doing it,
Like, at what point do you
So-
make that educated decision?
I hear you, and I will be the devil's advocate here.
Okay.
You can't do this to yourselves. Like, we made a decision, right? Like,
We made a
and you
decision
just,
based upon
I
like,
don't-
a low
but
two.
I-
but
right,
we did,
right.
and like,
I think it,
and
were
if-
hopeful.
and that new building is no longer 44 million, right? And that building aid that was part of that to bring that number down is no longer.
I get all that, right? But
Right.
we already know that that cost was 10 million higher than it could have been.
Yes, oh, yes.
Maybe.
We know that.
Maybe, but like,
I think that I tried to just step back because like I don't want to be the champion of like a new building, but my concern is that we're doing cartwheels to try to modify and twist and whatever, and we're seeing that it's super expensive. And my biggest question would be like, on a design build basis, which is I think what Carrie was ultimately saying at one point. How far off is it, right? Like how much of a difference is it? If you're gonna go build us a box,
If they were to
because you
build,
could
if they
you
were
could
to
build a
build this
box.
box right next to where GMS is today, same footprint, what would the cost be?
I have no. We can ask.
You know, and I know, and they're gonna say that's not in our scope, and I appreciate that answer. I do, right? But at some point, there's a sense of reason behind this.
Yeah. I mean, I have not had the history that you all have had with all of this, right? Like, I'm jumping in. I've had 2 years of history,
You'd be much bolder than Andrew and I.
but
Somehow,
You have another kid on the way.
yeah. The saying is, it's always better to build new. That's just how this works with schools and stuff like that. But will new pass in this town? And like, that's something you have to ask yourself. And if you're asking me today on April 15, 2026, I don't think a new build would pass in this town. And I think a renovation has a chance. So so in terms of cost, you can't, you gotta pass something. And
But I think to Andrew's point though, I think what is interesting about the questions he's asking is they're having to do a lot more work to figure out how to facilitate this because there's so much that goes into
Plan logistical lift and
Right.
shift, right?
right,
How am I moving things around?
versus on a basic level. I mean, even just on a just give us an idea. Like what your cost of construction is, and if you're going to do a design build, it's going to be essentially a box.
Right.
Right.
If I'm going to build another 70,000 square foot building, what's that cost?
Right. It would be interesting to know because I do feel like too, like if they said like 37 million and we're at like 33, it's like we're at 33, but we also have to move shit and
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. They may say, look, they think we're crazy anyways.
we are.
They may be like, you're asking us that. If we're going to give you a real answer, it's going to cost you. And I would not blame them for having that response. They'll say it politely, but I would not blame them. Or because they do like us and find us amusing, at least me and Julie, they might say like, yeah, we'll give you a rough estimate. Like,
The rough
Harvey.
estimate should be they know their cost of construction.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Like
Right.
they'll tell
We know
you.
it's going to be about a 70,000 square foot
Right.
building.
Yeah.
They'll tell you like, look, don't, we could do it in 36. Like, hypothetically, they could tell us they could do it in 36. Maybe it would end up being 36.5, 36.7, whatever the final price is, but they could get probably pretty close of an estimate of what they could do, because this is what they do, right? Especially if we're not going.
And there's no unknowns because it's just we are literally digging a hole, we're pouring in concrete, and then we're slapping the sticks together. Like,
But, like,
I think that the
Are we
like,
gonna undo all the work we
I don't
just
think
did?
I don't think we're going to undo the work. I think that it's important to understand because you have to remember, like, we were really, really, really hoping that this was going to start with a 1. And if this was going to start with a 1, there's no reason to even be having this discussion because if it starts with a 1, that's substantial.
That's what we do.
But if you're talking about a difference of, like, if it starts with a 1, it's worth taking the risk on, well, there's going to be some unknowns with renovation. Well, we're not going to be fully refreshing. There's certain parts of the building that we're only going to be lightly refreshing. They're not going to, like, we're going to be slapping a little bit of lipstick on a pig in some of this, right? But if it starts with a 1, like, okay, that's fine.
We have to be prepared to answer to the voters that question, right? Because somebody's, as we get a little bit further on in the year, they're gonna ask again, well, what's the cost of new? Right, we know the cost 2 years ago, and we know that that failed, but what's the cost of new now to have that in our back pocket?
Yeah, we'll ask.
Brian's quitting.
No,
Resignation's coming next week.
I understand the logic
We
behind
have
it.
to
We're
do our due
talking
diligence
about,
here, right? We
I
have, we
agree
have
with
to
you.
have that.
we're talking about, well, one, if we're gonna pass whatever project it is, we have to be able to answer every question that is asked. That's the only way we can even start with thinking of passing a project, right? Like, we had to, for example, we had to address the reconfiguration question, right? Like, we priced that out and we saw it was the most expensive of the three. They were all pretty close, but it was the most expensive thing. We needed that answer, because that was always gonna linger as a question. People may disagree with their assessment, but we have an answer that is backed up by research and work that people did, right? If the question's gonna linger, what is the cost of a new build under this different set of idea, right, where you're not doing this, what did you call it before, a green zero energy?
Net zero.
Whatchamacallit thing, right? Like, what is the difference in that? Like, and we need to have that answer, because that's the only way that this thing's gonna pass, and we need to get that answer. Right.
Didn't we get that from the last architect when he came back?
Barker?
You know,
he gave us
He gave us, it would be,
he said that
it was significantly less.
Yeah.
and his number, those numbers ended up being pretty close to what Harriman came up with for their work too, you know, like not exact, but like pretty close.
Well, this was for the new build, if it didn't have to be net zero.
Right.
Because they knew it, I think said that he wanted it to be a certain size, we wanted to make some things smaller, he wouldn't allow it, the former.
It was actually the New York-based design firm that was the.
So,
So-
it's worth the question.
Yeah. And
Never
they should be able to
ourselves.
quote a design build because they have Harvey on board. And that's what it would be. I mean, it would be.
We'll ask, see what they give. May change that form on the 18th.
Well, you know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, even if we can just go back and say to the community,
That's what I mean. Like, maybe that's the focus of the forum, right? Like when we talk about, like, if we like go and ask them and just be like, look, give us a super rough cost, right? Like, what are we talking about? Like, is it 10, 15 million than what we're talking about for renovation, or is it 1, 2, right? You know what I mean? Or roughly, what is the real difference? And then like, that becomes the focus of that forum. I mean, people will come out, I think, if that was the discussion point on the 18th, right? Like, because if we were to pivot, as we learned last year when we tried to like do all the work into the fall for a March vote and ran out of time, like that's what happened. Good work, but we still ran out of time. If we're gonna pivot, it's gotta be like now. Like now is the window to pivot.
I'm not suggesting we pivot.
yeah, no,
I'm not saying you are, but
right.
just like,
No, I
this
think-
is when we have to
What
ask
I'm
the
saying
question.
is, I think we should have a compare,
Yeah.
a refreshed compare, right? Because when you talk about this size of number, right, the tax impact's a tax impact.
Right.
Either way, you're paying it, right? So now what's less disruptive to us getting the job done?
Well, and I think what are I mean,
Well,
not to do this conversation in circles, but like, we're not, the renovation is touching needs, not wants, not wishes, right? It's only touching the parts of the building that need serious addressing. For example, it came up last night in the community forum, we're not touching the gym, right? Like, the renovation does not touch the gym. This community needs gym space, as we learn, right?
Yep.
Like, if we were to go down the new build road, it would obviously result in a new gym. And we would probably ensure whatever gym needs we
Adequately
need for the
sized.
community, that is appropriately sized for them, right? Like,
the other thing that I think then we can just at least explain, right? And again, no agenda. Like if the community comes out at large and says, no, it's absolute the renovation, fine, that's fine. But like the other thing we can explain is just like the study that they've cited where they say, you know, by 60 years, buildings are typically abandoned in exchange for like being demolished and then new buildings built, unless a community has really kept up a building, right? We are taking the buildings that, generally speaking, in architecture are demolished and rebuilt, and we are insisting on renovating it just because we were thinking that it was going to be more cost effective. And so I just want to at least be able, I want to be able to stand up and say, like, whatever we put in front of the community, whatever they vote on, like, I don't want them 15 years down the road to be like, what was that dumb school board that like said we should do this? And like, now we're stuck with the heart of a, 100-year-old building again.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
and if the
part of it.
community,
It's
whatever
gotta
the
be
community
future.
wants, we do, but.
All right, we've
Yes.
battled this one. Are you looking for a motion on this tonight?
What do we even? what do we-
We need a
don't need-
motion. Do we need a motion?
I mean, I suppose we still need to also sort out the funding piece of it, which we could do at another time, which is fine, because it would be an increase to the overall amount that we.
What is that increase?
So it's basically, let me see, I think it's 59,000. Yeah, with, it would be an increase of like $59,198, over what we had for the $225,000 for pre-construction services for Merriman and Harvey.
And that's to carry it forward for another year.
Correct.
What's in the account?
So right now, we have 245,000 in the account. We've only expended, 87,000 so far of the 225.
That we've already approved for use, right?
We've approved up to 225.
Correct.
That was our original motion
Correct.
months ago. Yeah.
Right. So with this, basically the new total would be 295 would be that, is the new amount.
Right, but we can pay
with
this, what
amendment.
they're looking for out of that money, right?
We can, I just want to make sure we have enough in the account to do so.
Yes, we do.
And we
We
passed
have
the warrant for
240,
that,
right, we have 245,000, and as long as we have the money at the end of the year, we would have another 250,000
And
going
that's
in.
a big if,
That is
right now.
correct.
But look, I mean, this is one of the things that the community needs to understand is like every time that we can't move something forward, it gets more expensive. And so, like, we've vetted these people, we went through that process, we have no choice but to continue.
Look, I'm just saying, right, as we think about end-of-year transfers and the like, right, this decision could impact us from being able to make key decisions that we're also going to want to make.
100%. I agree with you. What?
I think a motion to continue with Harriman would be helpful.
So moved.
And then as the funding situation develops, we can come back with those specifics because we have a lot of room between what we've spent and what you've
Correct.
already approved as a board, right?
We don't have
Because
any
if we don't
right
actually need
now.
to get to that, then we shouldn't make that request,
Mhm.
right?
So your motion is
To continue with
to
Harriman.
continue with Harriman, but that also includes increasing the cost to do so.
Potentially.
So that,
Right.
no, so that motion's also
So actually,
including the
we need to-
59,000.
Right, so we do, so then.
If you continue with Harriman, that's what you're approving,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
right?
so is it 59?
And-
Is that what the number is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
59.
The number I see here is 59,175. I don't, Julie, you mentioned a different number, so.
Right, that, we should probably have 60,000 is probably safe to just,
And it's not 60,000 twice? Phase one and phase two, or we're just doing phase one?
It is, but based upon the net of, it just happens to be like very similar numbers, 59,
correct,
59.
exactly.
Like, because you already did the 225, which covers Harriman and Harvey, remember?
Right.
Like, both of them. Their additional fees here, some of that falls still under that window of that 225.
Right.
So
It
the
has
net
not
of it
expense.
is 59 something, which is, gets you the
295.
295 total.
350.
295.
So, okay, but that covers phase one and
But
phase
that's-
two.
Yes.
Correct.
And Harvey and Harriman.
It gets us to the pre-bond vote.
Correct.
Right. My challenge with this and the hesitation is in the capital improvement expendable trust, we have 245.
Mhm.
We don't have 295.
But we've already expended some of that. So right now, we've expended 87,000, which is giving us that balance of 245.
Yes.
We have the 462 right now that's remaining of the 225 that we can still expend. If we expended that right now, we would have 160,000 still in that account,
Then you're
even
asking,
before the 250,000 deposit.
and then you're asking for an additional 59 potentially of that.
Correct.
Correct. So if that was all spent before the 250,
Right. we still-
You
We
still
would
have
be-
100 and some thousand in the account.
Yeah.
I got it. Maths.
Yes.
Math always does.
So I'll withdraw my motion.
No, your motion's
And I'll
valid.
amend
Or
my
you know,
motion
okay.
to, so are we gonna authorize,
By approving the contract, you approve the dollar amount.
but do we have to authorize that money to come out of the?
We've already
We'd
authorized
have
that
to
money.
do a public hearing for
public
that
hearing for
anyway,
that?
if we're gonna
Okay, so we
withdraw.
gotta do another public hearing. Okay, so I remake my motion
So your motion's
To-
to approve the Harriman
to
contract.
approve the Harriman, to approve the amended Harriman contract.
Okay, so the motion by Mr. Shoemaker, second by Mr. Plansky. Additional discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries 3-0.
Do you want to do a public hearing next meeting
Yes.
for the additional? We'll get the exact dollar amount, but
Yep.
it'll be like 59. We'll
say 60.
60, around 60.
Yep.
Yeah.
59 change. Yep. Okay.
There we go.
I am
GMS.
scrolling down here. So that's, great. So that's
There's
Harriman,
gonna be a
that's
day
old
where
business.
it's
Anything else on old business for this evening?
I hope not.
Okay, all right, great. We have manifests tonight. The manifest that the board has signed and 3 signatures on. We have accounts payable for $114,739.68. Another accounts payable of $68,161. A payroll manifest of $412,114.76. A payroll manual check of $1,017.79. A payroll manual check of $329.46, a 403B of $8,626.53, and credit cards of $10,247.62. I would just ask Mr. Allen to make sure that what we discarded earlier comes out. I don't know where that
Yes.
falls in this manifest I just read.
I'll make sure that comes out.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have our second round of community input this evening. I will open the floor. Seeing since nobody has joined us from the community tonight, I'll close that second round of community input and turn it over to the school board for comments. Commented out. Lots of comments tonight. I would once again just like to thank the administration for all the hard work put in on the health insurance specifically, as well as all the continued hard work on GMS, right? It's noticed and appreciated.
Yeah, we'll get there.
All right, the board does have some business tonight in non-public under RSA 91A3, and this is going to be A through C this evening. With that, I will entertain a motion to move to non-public.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker.
Second.
Second by Mr. Plansky. Roll call vote. Mr. Shoemaker.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Mr. Plansky.
Aye.
That carries 3-0. All right, everyone, thank you very much. We are now in non-public. Our next meeting is May 6th, 2026. Have a great evening.